Chapter 511, Dragon Rising 3. Sorry about the long delays. I'm focusing on some academic studies now, so it's taking most of the time, but I'll find a way to return to a stable schedule once I catch up with the studies. Also, there is an important announcement regarding your questions about the plot. This is not spoilers, so rest assured. We will deviate from the game story at some point based on the so-called changes of fate. Based on that, each dragon will be named and unique, not like the game's elder and ancient dragons. This means there is a depth in each dragon, as most of them will interact with the plot in the upcoming events. You will notice it from this chapter with Jarl Balgruuf. Now, I must thank the patrons that I didn't have the chance to thank because of my chaotic publish rate. Owl Turner B rank. At Jack D rank. At Puckleberry D rank. The air around the six of them intensified all of a sudden. None cared one bit of how it looked to onlookers, and the onlookers were smart enough to take distance. That was a different level of power between mortals and freaks was clear and visible in this particular scene, and it started. Get him! Alina spoke, and everything started happening at the same time. Isha wanted to make distance between her group and Alina's, so she swung the spear in a wide slash, but before she got to do her part, the spear was already gone from her hands. Mirren wanted to take the rear of the enemies, so he used the short-range instant teleportation spell, Blink, to launch a surprise attack, but during the black blink of teleporting, he was already facing the ground with his lower body twisted in the wrong direction. Miranda wanted to take distance, so she gets to act as a long ranger, but without further ado, she was bound by many different kinds of magic binds. Instant defeat. Wolford disarmed Isha of the Spear of Bitter Mercy and aimed it at her throat. Jelliner ambushed the ambusher Mirren and pinned him down in a Boston Crab submission move. Miranda was bound from moving by almost 5 different variations of the bind spell to stop her from both teleporting, overpowering, dispelling, reflecting, or resisting. Now let's get to know each other, Alina said as she walked over to Miranda. Who would have believed that capturing the Altmere twins and Isha would be this easy? Isha shuddered from the shock. She was the least one who was pinned down, even though she was disarmed and her spear was pointed at her. But looking at Wolfer, who was just standing there with a natural look, Isha's instincts were screaming at her not to move. This man holding her spear is simply at the pinnacle of spearmanship, even in front of her who is a spear battle lord. The truth of the instant defeat laid in Alina, who took a special interest in Miranda. Alina can see many versions and possibilities of the future, making her the most troublesome opponent to even consider going against. She is already winning everything once her eyes get to see it. Alina simply put her hand on Miranda's hood and put it down. Miranda's appearance was fully revealed as an elf beauty of flawless appearance, yet deviant style. Her blonde hair was trimmed from the sides and had traces of colorful dyes with some tattoos barely visible beneath her upper garment. I knew it. Alina clapped her hands together. I love your hairstyle. Where did you get it done? Wah, Isha. Huh. Wolfer. Wait. Mirren. Ah, she's doing it again. Jelliner. There was a huge misunderstanding going on here, but Alina cleared it right away. No, it is not what you were thinking. I just noticed her hair under the hood, which looked so stylish. I'm officially bullying her here. Alina said. Miranda was glaring at Alina, trying relentlessly to break the spells she's under, but it was almost impossible. Alina's magic is not just prepared, but almost custom-made to trap Miranda, an absurdity only someone who can predict the future can come up with. Let go of me, Miranda said. Ask politely. Alina replied with a delighted face. Please let go of me. No. What's wrong? I just told you to ask politely. Who said I am complying? Alina was plainly bullying Miranda, but that was not her intention from the start. She could clearly tell that John had come in contact with that girl very lately. A day or two, she didn't know, but she was sure that John had slept with that girl in that time frame. It wasn't magic or her eye powers, but rather her female intuition. She was about to get serious and ask about John, but before she got the chance to do so, something she couldn't foresee happened. Now! Miranda shouted, and her body shone with light. The thing happened with Mirren right away, and the two disappeared from their place. Impossible! Alina exclaimed. She couldn't see through such a thing. This was completely unforeseen for her. At that moment, a different figure appeared and attacked Alina from behind. She was almost defenseless, and in an instant, a clash happened. Mir's attack didn't land, but rather, Alina was completely pressing him down with her eyes glowing red like a thirsty vampire. Such a nerve to hide from my sight, but still, only one man can escape my eyes. An agonizing pain struck Mir all of a sudden before he could act or react. The damage received from Alina's eyes started to weigh on his burden, and his blessing of Mephala activated on its own, splitting him back to his aspects of duality. Seeing the one being become two, Alina was plainly surprised by the sudden occurrence that she couldn't understand. It was clear that two elves escaped somehow with the appearance of this third individual, but to think the two can combine themselves to create a third person with greater power that even she can't foresee his movements, there was something really interesting about the pair. "Stop hurting them," Isha shouted as she ignored Wolfer and ran at Alina, but Jeliner tackled her down. "Easy there," Wolfer called. This situation got out of hand. "Alina, what on earth are you after?" he asked. Alina? Mir and Miranda and Isha surely heard of that name before, and the description fits very perfectly. "Stop!" In this chaotic situation, a seventh individual interfered to stop the fight, and that individual happened to be an acquaintance of both parties, Ela the Huntress. The two parties were about to officially be introduced to one another, but as soon as the basic introductions were made by Ela, the city got too noisy all of a sudden. The Jarl's housecarl, Ireleth, ran into the upper city on a horse and stormed her way towards the castle. The guards behind her had one word that kept repeating on their tongues. "A dragon. A dragon has been sighted nearby." A dragon? How exciting! Where was it seen, and what was it doing? Farengar became excited for no apparent reason. "I'd take this more seriously if I were you," Ireleth retorted at him right away and turned to Balgruuf. "My lord, your orders." "Woman, you've seen a dragon?" Jarl Balgruuf, who was still in Farengar's lab, asked with a stiff face. "No, a guard came from the western watchtower," Ireleth replied. "Well, what are you waiting for? Bring him over here," Jarl Balgruuf shouted. Ireleth nodded and went back to the hall dragging in a guard. "So, Ireleth tells me you came from the western watchtower?" Balgruuf asked the guard. "Yes, my lord. Tell him what you told me about the dragon." Ireleth urged the guard to keep talking. That's right. We saw it coming from the south. It was faster than anything I've ever seen." "What did it do? Is it attacking the watchtower?" Balgruuf asked. "No, my lord. It was just circling overhead when I left. I never ran so fast in my life. I thought it would come after me for sure." The Jarl fell into silence, but I still could hear Farengar and Delphine whispering to one another. The Jarl didn't mind then and spoke to the guard. "Good work, son. We'll take it from here. Head down to the barracks for some food and rest. You've earned it." As the guard walked away, he turned to Ireleth. "Ireleth, call the other housecarls, all the available thanes, the clan heads, and all the fine warriors in Whiterun. By the order of the Jarl, we are going after that dragon." I know the situation was different from the game, but just now, it took a totally different turn, didn't it? "I've already ordered my men to muster near the main gate," Ireleth replied and went to her business. I was still trying to recover from the massive deviation that happened in the storyline. The Jarl is going out to fight the dragon? This didn't happen in the game at all. He just sends Ireleth, the player, and some guards. "There's no time to stand on ceremony, my friend. I need your help again. I want you to come with us and help fight this dragon. You survived Helgen, so you have more experience with dragons than anyone else here." This was all turning out different than what I expected. The Jarl is changing the game story. I had to understand what's going on here. "Excuse me, Jarl Balgruuf, are you really risking yourself going against the dragon? Isn't it dangerous to go without a force to measure the situation first?" I asked. "What in oblivion are you talking about?" The Jarl looked at me with an offended face. "I am the Jarl of this hold, and I just said it a minute ago. I won't stand idly by when a dragon comes to me home. We will chase the beast off." The Jarl replied in the most determined Nord tone I heard in years. Somehow his reply made perfect sense. "You are the Jarl. You won't just send some ordinary guards, a housecarl, and some stranger to fight something that is threatening your city, right? Right? God, what were the game writers thinking? I should come along. I would very much like to see this dragon. Farengard jumped in. I can't risk both of you and Irileth on such a dangerous mission, but in the legends of those who fought dragons, there was always a mage existing. We need our clever men on this one as well, but keep a safe distance, Farengar. Yes, my Jarl. I will bring my apprentices along. So even Farengar is tagging along. That also didn't happen in the game. Just what caused this change to happen. Everything happened so fast afterward. The Jarl led all the able-bodied men of Whiterun outside the city towards the western watchtower, and all those who volunteered to follow were appreciated as well. While the Jarl and his men were readying themselves to go, he had to send a scouting team under the lead of Irileth to check out the tower without engaging. John was among that team. The eastern watchtower was 1 hour away from the city on the road to Greymore Fort. The place was seriously ravaged by the Civil War, and the tower was clearly damaged due to some battle. The situation in Falkreath and Riverwood may haven't been like this, but the plains of Whiterun were much different from the ones in the game now that John took a closer look. The lands were scorched, and the grass was completely ravaged while the dirt was submerged with the strong scent of iron, as if a river of blood had passed through here. More to that, there were a lot of broken swords and bent banners with a lot of ashen wooden structures and traces of the dead. Never seen a battle's leftovers before? Irileth asked. I hate wars. John replied. Good. The scout party traveled past the decayed battlefields and arrived near the watchtower where they started seeing pillars of smoke rising to the skies. They hid in the shade of a boulder right away and started watching from a distance. No signs of any dragon right now, but it sure looks like he's been here, Irileth said, and started organizing the rolls on the guards. We got to figure out what happened, and if that dragon is still skulking around somewhere. Spread out and look for survivors. We need to know what we're dealing with. Adventurer, you follow me. John and Irileth teamed up as they started advancing sneakily through the long grass around the tower. John thought it was useless since sneaking on a dragon isn't something even he can do, since if a dragon is on guard, it will use the Aura Whisper to reveal all the enemies, yet John didn't voice his complaint. In actuality, the dragon in question was using the watchtower as bait for more humans to come. After all, that's what that dragon's name means. The guards spread out and circled the tower until they found a way in unseen. Once the voices of survivors were heard from inside, Irileth and the others started to rush into the tower. Is everyone all right in here? Irileth asked as she moved the rubble blocking the tower's door. Inside the tower, there were some guards who looked pale from fear. Once they saw Irileth, they fell to panic. No, get back. It's still here somewhere. Proki and Tor just got grabbed when they tried to make a run for it. A guard shouted, Guardsman, what happened here? Where's this dragon? Quickly now. Irileth almost slapped the panicking guard. I don't know. We were just patrolling around the tower, and out of nowhere, it descended on us. The guard replied. It breathed fire on us. Gods! It killed 3 men in a blink of an eye, then grabbed 2 of the men like mice and flew away. Another said, It's terrible. We can't fight that. We need to escape. A third guard wanted to run out of the tower, but Irileth punched him to the ground. Get yourself together, will you? And you call yourselves Nords? Irileth was grumpier than her usual, and her aura oppressed the other guards to fall in order. You, describe that dragon. How large was it? Can arrows pierce it? After lining up the men, she started to gather information from the survivors. It was undoubtedly large. I doubt that a normal sword switch can bother it. A guard replied. A sword swing? Damn thing kills without even landing. It was faster than any arrow I can shoot. We need strong warriors, better archers. Another continued. Let's hold our ground then. The Jarl will arrive with Whiterun's finest. We will deal with that dragon. Irileth changed her intimidating voice into the source of hope those afraid guardsmen needed. The Jarl is coming? By his smear we will live. The guards were delighted hearing that there are more reinforcements, but the mood couldn't even last a couple of seconds. Something in the sky. A guard called from outside. Immediately, a terrible voice shook the world. Jorbo luft zei. Thuri duhin sil ko Sovngarde. Mortals, come face me. My lord will devour your souls in Sovngarde. A terrible presence overtook everything in the area. The hearts of everyone almost sunk to their feet, Irileth, and John included. He's here. John spoke and walked to the nearest arrows lit in the tower. There he saw the dragon that starts it all. A terrible enemy, a powerful foe, and an unavoidable disaster. The loyal strong hunter, Mermulner. Allegiance, strong hunt. P4TRE0 in Pat times Rayon. com/Eldokmizi. Remove times. YouTube. com/channel/UCR 7RT7 NWOJ IRA 0S7 CJFRJDW. Discord. GG/GKCKVA7. Instagram @Don_Dokmisi. Twitter @Eldokmizi22. Chapter 512, Dragon Rising 4. Many thanks for our new patron @Timothy Hesselink. A dragon descending on Whiterun. Now that was a reason good enough for Alina not to choke the living ghost out of the woman who accompanied her husband for 2 years without her permission, a temporary reason, as she gracefully added. When the Jarl descended from his palace and stood under the Gildergreen tree, calling the men of Whiterun to come and fight a dragon, all the warriors of Whiterun came running. The opportunity to fight a dragon, now that is what those crazed Nords call honor. Fighting a dragon and dying is a golden ticket for Sovngarde. Fighting a dragon and slaying it is a golden ticket to becoming a legend. Even just participating in a fight against a dragon is still a big deal. At this point, few could resist the temptation of glory. Sis, you're awfully silent. Jelinar spoke to Alina. When John said there will be dragons, everyone, including me, didn't want to believe. No, we were too afraid to believe that what he said is true. Now look at how things unfold. Alina seemed to be very depressed for the fact that everyone was in denial regarding John's warning. What of it? Joel asked. I told you John wasn't lying. He introduced me to a dragon once. You still think I am lying? Well, you know John can be a swindler, a trickster, and Joel turned to Miranda, eyeing her from top to bottom, and a little bit unfaithful, but he still doesn't like lying. In fact, he considers strength to be telling the truth without minding anyone else. Yes, thank you. Can I now get some time to be jealous on my own? Speaking of John, where is he? Wolfer asked, then turned to Isha and the Altmare twins. He said he'll be there once it starts, but he left us with a very strict order. It only applies to the 3 of you as well. Isha said, Say it. He said to never interact with him during the dragon hunt in any direct way. Isha's words were sharp like a razor on Alina, Jelinar, and Wolfer. Alina and Joel became silent, but Wolfer was obviously dissatisfied. Why on earth would he say such a thing? He glared daggers at the 3 newcomers. Wolf, be quiet. Comply with John's plan. Alina said, and ended the conversation before it attracts more attention. After all, the 6 of them were all together in the public gathering where Jarl Balgruuf was talking to the people. And so, I won't be saying more than this. If a dragon attacks Whiterun, it won't look good for the people who can't fight or run. This we should go for the dragon before it comes to us. With the strength of our swords and arrows, with the blessings of the divines, we shall not fail our people. Kinsmen, time to draw glory. The Jarl finished his speech and led the men of Whiterun towards the main gate. It wasn't just an accidental call to hunt a dragon, as on the way one could see the rapid preparations that were put into this call against the dragon. It seemed that Jarl Balgruuf had prepared for a siege beforehand and kept his armory ready. Crossbows, enchanted weapons, ballistas, magic, and all the necessary preparations were all at arm's length. The companions joined as fast as they could, and Ela walked with Alina and the others. You 6 are not at each other's throats? That's progress, she said. Temporarily, Alina added. Doesn't matter, I know where John is, Ela said. The others were looking all around themselves, but they didn't feel a hint of John. He's already ahead with the scouts. I ran into him this morning, but he was strictly keeping his identity covered. What is he waiting for? Wait, you ran into him? Wolfer said angrily. Calm down, big guy. He said he has a plan that will require us to work together while he acts on his own. It is for the sake of everyone, or so he stated. Mirren said, All right. Alina let go of all her unimportant feelings for the moment and spoke. John is relying on us for something important, so let's not mess it up. I'll be nagging oblivion out of him later on, but let's do what he says for now. Wolfer, don't get stubborn on us now. Wolfer snorted as he seemed a bit angry at John for not showing up despite being around. It was safe to say that the ones that missed John the most were his wife and girlfriends, but the one who was itching to meet John no matter what was Wolfer. The half a year alone, they stopped Wolfer from going after John like 10 times already. Missing out on the excitement was what Wolfer hated the most, but this was all away once the dragon hunt party left Whiterun with the Jarl heading west there. Everyone could hear the sky rumbling with a terrible, mighty roar. The dragon has descended on the tower. A few miles ahead of the dragon hunt party, the scouting party was witnessing the terror of its lifetime. Take cover. It's in the sky. The tower was akin to a bunker under being bombarded by modern cannons. Each fire breath shout the dragon sent from the sky were shaking the heaven and the earth in unison. It was clear that whoever was outside the tower had met their demise if the heavens weren't merciful. Tell your men to retreat. They are like sheep sent to slaughter, John said as he walked out of the watchtower. Don't just stand there. Find cover, you fools, and make every arrow count. Irileth pulled an injured guard in the tower as she started organizing what's left of the scouting party. There was a little to no hope in this situation, but those men can't die pissing themselves if the hold is to survive a dragon. She looked through the tower's door to see John standing there looking up to the sky. There was not much to do inside the tower other than shooting arrows from the arrow slits or risking to go on its top, so Irileth followed John outside. The scene out there can only be described as something worse than what she could even imagine. The land was burning and the rocks were melting. That which was touched by the dragon fire turned charred black. Such destruction can't even be caused by those at the apex of pyromancy. Where is it? Irileth asked. John only pointed towards the rising smoke south of the tower, where a lot of rubble could be seen. There, a titanic silhouette moved with the land shaking beneath it. Irileth turned pale as soon as she realized the situation. For her, who is an extremely fast fighter, she can dodge a fire breath that comes from the sky and shoot back an arrow or a spell at the moving target. But now that it is on land, the range of evasion became dreadfully tight, and the dragon can just walk to them. Her imagination refused to take her to the situation where this massive creature lands and starts wrecking the place physically. She could only tighten the grasp on her sword and summon a thunderbolt spell on her left, readying for a bitter fight. On the other hand, John was carefully watching and calculating every move done by the dragon. John knew Mermolner from his name, a dragon loyal to Alduin's horde that lived for a very long time on the peaks of the Reach, hiding and waiting while secretly hunting. The hunt was this dragon's hobby, and a hunter loves to see his prey struggling to outsmart its predator, so Mermolner was silently playing the scouting party to death. Such a bad habit, playing with food. Didn't Alduin tell you it's wrong? John aimed his hand forward with a small pebble in his hand, launching it with his thumb towards the dragon hidden behind the smoke. The dragon didn't react for a second, but a strange thing happened. Boom. Asterisk Ruahar. Star. Bullseye. John smirked widely. The silhouette behind the smoke finally moved ahead and showed its night appearance. A dragon walking on 4 limbs covered in bronze scales with 2 large horns on his head and other 2 minor horns behind them. Duzir Jor, insolent mortal, I will feast on your flesh. The dragon's wrath was real, and John was its target. Say what you want about magic and aura, but once the dragon shows its anger, the world starts to shiver. Yep, bad idea. John took Irileth by the shoulder and teleported away as their spot was engulfed by a stream of raging fires. Irileth realized what happened and looked at John. He can teleport indeed, but that doesn't matter now. What have you done to the dragon? She asked. Pissed him off. Kind of my thing, pissing others off. Let's split. The dragon will be after me. John ran from the place he was hiding in and attracted the attention of the dragon. A moment ago, when he threw a pebble at Mermolner, he put a fire rune on that pebble and aimed it perfectly at the dragon's nostrils. It is obvious that a dragon won't get hurt by that, but imagine someone punching your nose from the inside. Pretty nasty. Irileth signaled for the guards in the watchtower to start firing arrows at the dragon, but nothing would take his attention from John other than vaporizing the flesh of that mortal. Coward mortal, run or hide, I will find you. John was fully utilizing his parkour skills to evade all the fire breath shouts the dragon dishes out. Still at one moment, Mermolner stopped shouting all of a sudden. John stopped at his place to see what's going on and noticed something different about the shout Mermolner was using this time. It was as if the dragon was murmuring something repeatedly. John couldn't tell what was that at the beginning, but he soon analyzed the energy flow around the dragon, and a cold shiver ran through his spine. Is it even possible to use shouts like that? John froze at his place from the shock. This was something he never thought would be possible through shouting. John, who thought himself to be a genius at the science of the dragon shouts, was about to witness a whole new realm of using the Thursdayum he never got to imagine in a mere video game. A cluster of stalk shouts. Why, well, Torshul. The dragon didn't just use a shout, but he added an echo to it. An echo that can repeat the shout's effect. If a normal shout was a bullet, then what John is up against is a shotgun shell, and only one thing was within his power. Brace for impact. Are you fucking kidding me? Cough, cough. The fucking monster. He can make his echo into more shouts. What's next? A sniper shout? Nope. Let's not jinx it. I barely pulled myself out of this crater I was in. Damn. It almost snapped a rib in that explosion. A shout that explodes, it is worse than what I thought. Dragons are scary, man. Shouldn't have pissed it off that much. As I walked out staggering of that cloud of dust, I started hearing distant shouts from some direction that should be where the watchtower is. I was dizzy and my senses were jumbled after this explosion. Didn't feel this shitty in a long time. Dragon, I'm still alive, you flying scaly-ass lizard. No matter what, I can't let Mermolner kill anyone or this will be Somgard for them. Not the right time at the moment to be swallowed by the World Eater. Sadly, the dragon didn't hear my insults and was bombarding the watchtower instead. Nefertiti, be my eyes. All right, I needed to see through the shadows with my senses this jumbled. I also needed to fight more seriously than this. I could equip some of the gear I have, but going full geared will be against the plan, else my unique artifacts will be recognized instantly, especially the ebony blade with Irileth around. All I could bring now was a spear with a glass head and an illusion curse enchantment. This will do. Nefertiti was done possessing my eyes, and I could see the world as if it was made of shadows. What's more interesting was how I saw the dragon Mermolner and could spot the magic flow in his wings. Dragons use magic to fly. Their wings are big and strong, but to reach the unreachable heights, dragons use magicka to fly better, and I can see some of the energy channels in the wings. This is a great weakness for someone like me. Okay, motherfucker. You screwed me once, I screw you back. I know I started it, but whatever. Now, let's flip your senses. I had a great study of illusions the past year to perfect my weakest school of magic, and I've got to admit that I regret not learning illusion until late. This school has some cool applications like this. I launched the spear with the illusion curse, but I added a rune on the spearhead to modify the effect just a little bit, and with Nefertiti's aim assist, the spear struck the wing, not strong enough to damage it, but accurate enough to make contact with the energy channels and bring the illusion curse to it. Make a barrel roll, bitch. It was said that the simplest spells can be the most effective, and this was just a simple spell that disturbs the senses for a second. It makes a bottom and left-right, you get the gist. Mermolner, who was trying to fly up, flipped on its back and flipped his wings down. Asterisk crash. Star. Bahar. The fucker crashed down like dumb chicken that can't fly. Serves him right. Mortal, what have you done to me? Mermolner shouted angrily. WIRM. I know people are supposed to fight your kind heroically or some nonsense, but this raises a question. Have you dragons ever been to a dirty brawl? I replied, Fosrod, you fight with no honor. The WIRM struggled up to fix his embarrassing posture and started calling me names. Honor? Find that with someone of your size, you asshole. As I insulted him more, he was already shooting at me. Why, well, Torshul. Not a chance. This time, I retaliated faster than letting him shout. Casting telekinesis on a large rock under his head, I raised it as fast as I could to hit his lower chin. Interrupting his shout was successful as it was diverted to the sky instead. Not wasting a second, I cast Bound Warhammer and charged at him with my aura being channeled through the secret tattoos under my armor. Take this. I put my mightiest swing in a single attack and hit that head that is larger than me by 2 times. I could see the dragon's head turning around from the impact, but that was it. It just turned around. My hands were numb from the attack, but that fucker only reacted to the attack. Nothing else. He was even looking down on me. My bad. I was about to politely explain things to him when his tail struck me out of my spot. It felt like being hit by a wrecking ball, but the worst part was the crash that left a long trail on the ground. Jor, mortal, you are resilient, but with no honor. I will kill you and offer your hide to Thuri, my lord. Yeah, I shouldn't have downloaded that talkative dragons mod. Well, this guy has a glib mouth for a face that only his mother can love. I stood up and faced the arrogant WIRM. I don't care about your honor, but I'll play dirty like it or not. You have messed with the wrong motherfucker. And that's how it started, me versus Mermulner. A full-fledged dragon with God knows what shouts and shouting methods under his sleeves against yours truly with all the accomplishments under my belt. And from the horizon, an army coming from Whiterun to my aid. P4TRE0N, Pat times Rayon. com/Eldokmizi, remove times. Discord. GG/GKCKVA7. Instagram at Don_Dokmisi. Twitter at Eldokmizi22. Chapter 513, Dragon Rising 5. I added a pic for the realistic dragon. Human size ratio on Instagram and Discord. Also, big thanks to our new patron at Kevin D. Evans. You see that? It's a dragon. Divines protect us. Not all who came from Whiterun were expecting the dragon size in mind. That creature is simply a behemoth, and hacking it with a sword suddenly seemed a bit of a challenge. Don't falter. If you don't want to call yourselves Nords anymore, then you can hide behind me. Yet a certain voice shook the men's body and core once it said those words. Looking back, there was a red-dressed lady coming holding a staff and donning a sword. Lady Alina of Winterholds? One man recognized the lady, who was one of the most famous individuals in both Winterhold and Kyne's cult. She walked ahead of the men, followed by the 6 powerful individuals. Wulfur, Jellinar, Ela, Isha, Mirren, and Miranda. She only stopped when she was near the Jarl and his men. Jarl Balgruuf, Lady Crimson Moon, I saw you at the gathering. I was just visiting. It seems that you have a dragon problem. That's a large beast. The two looked ahead at the dragon, who was some distance away, spewing his raging flames around without. What is it fighting? It doesn't seem to be attacking the tower. The Jarl said. Alina's eyes glowed as she looked around the area and soon found the answer that made her heart beat uncontrollably. Kyne, there is someone fighting the dragon. The guards are fortifying the tower. Let's hurry. Alina said. Someone was dumb enough to fight the dragon amidst those flames are either a fool or a fool, but either way, he's a fool who kept the guardsmen from getting burned by serving as a distraction. The Jarl was appreciative enough to draw his sword and call for advancement to aid that warrior. Alina knew that was John. The appearance was not John, but if there is someone she can't see through his magic or predict his actions, then that's John. As the Jarl charged ahead with the men who were brave enough to run madly at a dragon, Alina turned and faced the other men. Cowards now, are you? Alina said and faced the tower's direction. Cower behind me, if you must, and none shall blame you. As for these fine ladies with me, we have a role to play. Come, sisters. The dragon won't slay itself. Alina's domineering words left those men in shame and trapped them between the horror of fighting a real dragon and their survival instincts that screamed for them to get away. They don't have the talent to fight like those madmen that charged at a dragon, and even those ladies following Alina were monsters on their own accord. Still, they stood their grounds looking for a way to participate in this fight. If you have nothing better to do, go man those ballistas. Those who can run fast should get going and help the injured. Don't stand there like helpless ducks. Move. Wolfer shouted at the remaining men, and they started acting with his loud call. They ran to the nearby wagons and started unloading the weapons that were left behind. Hey bro, where are you going? Wolfer called for Mirren. HM? She said follow. Mirren pointed at Alina, who was leading the others ahead. She said ladies. Wolfer corrected him. Oh, sorry. I got confused. Mirren apologetically put on an awkward front. He was still adapting after all. Wolfer was a bit confused by Mirren, but he started guiding the men to mount the ballistas. Meanwhile, Mirren was trying to decide whether to follow the ladies to fight the dragon, or do what. It is kind of hard to feel his situation, but he was having one. As Wolfer organized the ballista team, he was joined by Mirren and diverted their attention to the battle. Away from them, the situation was much more organized than anticipated. Jarl Balgruuf and his men didn't just run towards the dragon, but formed multiple lines and teams. Each line had archers, and each team had warriors. We are advancing. No matter what, that dragon can't go further north. Jarl Balgruuf shouted as he was joined by his protection detail. The plan of this plan was not to kill the dragon, but to push it away. If that dragon decided to attack the city of Whiterun, things will turn into tragedy. My lord, should we fire? A guard asked. No. Someone is fighting the dragon close by. It must be Irileth, this woman. Tell her to retreat at once. Jarl Balgruuf replied. Yes, Jar. As the man was about to go ahead and try to call back whoever is fighting that dragon, Alina interfered. Jarl Balgruuf, your men can't get close to that area. I will attack the dragon from here. She said. HM, if that's an option, then let's go with it. Alina took a deep breath and aimed her staff forward with a brilliant cold light shining from it. Give me power. Blinding strokes of cold lights rushed from various angles at the dragon that was breathing his flames at me. As vicious as the flames were, as terrifying as the frost was, they both canceled another in a mysterious manner. To have enough skill and quality to extinguish the dragon's fire is a remarkable feat for a mage that even I would find challenging, but the clash just now gave off the cold nature of the magicka that has a distinctive feeling to it. Ah, I can recognize this anywhere. My dear wifey, part of me can't help but to ignore this terrible beast ahead of me and just turn around to hug that woman that I love none like in the world, to let her scold and nag me for my misdeeds like she always does, but I am a terrible husband. Just why did she marry me? I turned around to steal a glance, and my heart skipped a beat. Or maybe a few. Or maybe my heart has just departed from its place, racing me to her. That dirty fucker of heart. Why, well, Torshul. Never mind a dragon breath. Oh, a dragon breath. I thought my temperature was rising because of Alina, but apparently I am burning. Burning. Help that man. Hurry, he's on fire. I wonder why these people are covering me with some cloaks and carrying me away, but it seems that something important is happening. I'm not sure what. Healer. Lady, this man is injured. Somehow, the image of Alina kept getting closer. He was engulfed by the dragon's fire. Divines. He's still breathing. The men who carried me left me near Alina and ran off after more injured men. Still, I can't shake off the feeling that I forgot something important. He looks fine, Alina said as she took a glance at me. Send him back to the dragon's fire. He burns well. I'm not sure what she meant, but her voice was soothing. Still, when she waved her hand, I was teleported back in the middle of the fray with a voice ringing in my head. John, if you hear this, then you must know that unless you deal with that dragon, you are not eating pussy tonight. I'm confiscating all your girlfriends, including that new elf girl. Oh. Something so merciless can only be said by Alina, but now that she mentions a dragon, I remembered what was happening. Standing up, I saw a bunch of men going through the fires and the flames in a heated battle to fight a winged, oversized lizard. So a dragon for pussy. Sounds fair. I ran forward ahead of the men and shouted, "Dragon, it's you and me. I'll kill you and claim your pussy. I mean your... Goddamn it. Whatever it is, I am claiming it. Forfeit your soul." Never minding how his ancestors were turning in their graves, John ran for the dragon, with a just cause fueling his momentum. Why, well, Torshul, your shout is really losing its effect. John evaded the fire breath, relying on some sort of mysterious footwork technique. He moved as if he was unhindered by the land, pushing the world instead of being bound by its laws. The Gotfang footwork was mysterious and accurate, allowing John to effortlessly shake off a dragon. With a high leap, John crossed the boundaries and leaped over the field towards Mermolner with his hands not carrying a weapon but through his ring. An unnoticeable dark matter came out and entered his gauntlets, Ozidal's evil fists. The fists transformed into a larger variant known as Ozidal's Titan Hands. With those large fists swinging forward, John was but a meter away from the dragon when he added his signature spell to the attack. Super Thunder Cookie! Asterisk kaboom! Star. It was a magnificent clash that stunned both the dragon and John at the same time, with the men surrounding the dragon with their spears in wonder. The dragon was pushed back for the first time by that magnificent fist of the Nord warrior. It was stunningly incredible. Even Alina was blushing as she understood John's suicidal move of thunder cookieing the dragon. After all, this was the very same spell John used when he met Alina for the first time 5 years ago, when he was turning a Thalmor Justiciar into a bloody goo. John glanced towards the blushing Alina, trying to see her reaction to his move. "You guys do love each other in the craziest of ways. And you call me mad?" Jelinar wondered. "Can we focus on the dragon now?" There was indeed that huge-ass problem that John and Alina needed to focus on. A dragon that was actually hurt from an attack, just now. Alina interrupted his shout, and now John punches his face. Then the two make out a pink atmosphere together in such a situation. Even the dragon was fed up by letting those two pesky humans have their way. Molnagar. Strong fury unleash. John heard a shout he didn't know, but all his attention was back on the dragon in less than a second. The dragon was raging, angry, and furious. With that shout, a sudden red shockwave was unleashed from the dragon's boundary, blasting everyone around away. Bastard! John couldn't withstand the force and put his oversized gauntlets forward to protect himself. Alina teleported back with whoever close to her, and anyone who had the skill to evade this power slipped away. Those who had no power or skill were blasted away. The ones that didn't die were in a bad shape. This angry energy of the dragon was harmful and could cause physical damage, but that wasn't the purpose of it to begin with. The dragon was going into a berserk mode. Shit! Fall back! Don't get hit by him. John realized that every action the dragon took from this point is lethal even for an individual of his own caliber. Mermolner swung his tail, sweeping the land towards John, and the latter started moving. With the Gotfang footwork, John moved around the dragon, not away from him. If he did move away, those who are injured nearby will get caught in the attack. Don't let that warrior die. Shoot the dragon. Jarl Balgruuf ordered the archers and the warriors to hinder the dragon right away to ease the heat of John. Each archer and warrior following the Jarl were aura masters. Reinforcing their arrows with the simplest strength aura was enough for the dragon to feel like the sting of 100 ants. Motag! Annoying! Mermolner wanted to let out his rage on something, so he switched target from John to the warriors of Whiterun. Not a chance. Jarl Balgruuf was standing in the way of the dragon with a sword. Once the dragon was close enough, he stabbed his sword in the earth and took a piece of the land up to black the dragon's way. Nice! John was in awe of the surprising martial power of Jarl Balgruuf, but at the same time, he was attacking Mermolner from the side. A devastating punch landed on the left side of the dragon's head, causing it to be enraged more than usual, but the dragon didn't have time to retaliate. Wulfur landed another strong bash from the other side with a massive shield. Alina threw curses instead of normal spells to weaken the dragon. Jellinar targeted one of Mermolnir's eyes with a dagger, even though she couldn't cause damage. The blade was laced with a neurotoxin that made seeing through this eye painful. Elo was systematically shooting the joints of the dragon's wings, trying to injure him, and create a weakness to rip his wing. Isha was appearing from nowhere and everywhere, delivering a nasty sting, then running to another location. Miranda and Mirren were assisting all the sides and covering all the shortcomings from all parties. This was too systematic. It was planned, it was prepared. Mermolnir couldn't understand why those powerful individuals appeared in rapid succession and fighting as a single unit. Usually, the humans don't have that much expert gathered in one place unless it is an important site, but this is just a watchtower in the wilderness of Whiterun. Mermolnir could overwhelm them at first, as most of them were still adapting to fight a dragon for the first time, but this is way too strange. They were prepared for him, just like those days of the Dragon War. It can't be. It shouldn't be. Alduin was in hiding, and none of the other dragons made contact with a human in the past 26 years. Oracles and prophecies can't predict dragons as the being who were created of time itself, but only the Elder Scrolls can. The thing is, even with Alduin's prophecy, the dragons shouldn't be expected this much. Alduin must learn of this. This was the thought that came to Mermolnir's head, but first, he must get rid of those dangerous individuals. Tid Clo all. Time sand eternity. Shit. John understood the disaster that was about to fall. Mermolnir just shouted the slow time shout. Damn it. Retria. John wanted to warn the others, but he barely shouted. Following him, none could react to the sudden speed and accuracy the dragon gained all of a sudden. Mermolnir's tail flung John away effortlessly. A boulder was tossed at Alina. Wulfur and Isha were crushed under the wing. Jellinar and Elo were rammed by the dragon's movements. But lastly, it was Miranda who was in danger. Mermolnir opened his mouth, intending to swallow her. Sister, Mirren immediately switched places with Miranda through their inborn talent. No, she shouted, trying to reverse the spell, but he resisted. The situation was grim. Mermolnir was not giving his all till now, and that's the result of angering a dragon. John was helplessly looking, trying to move faster. Teleporting would take time to cast and charge, and with his distance, it is faster to run. He broke from his place like a loosened arrow to save Mirren, but Mermolnir was insisting on swallowing him. John had to go faster. His best bet was the arcane tattoo. He reinforced the tattoo with the fastest energy, Magicka. His tattoos glowed in blue, with the Nordic tattoos illuminating his arms, neck, head, upper chest, and upper back. He moved one step. Magicka wasn't enough, so he had to switch to aura. His madness aura was the easiest to muster after Magicka, and so he added it. His tattoos glowed in vibrant green, but it was not enough. He moved another 2 steps. With the basic grade aura failing to boost him, John switched to the advanced grade tyrannical aura. It took a second to muster, but it gave him an incredible boost. His tattoos glowed in red, and his steps were faster. He moved another 4 steps. All of that was not enough. There were another 10 steps between him and Mirren in less than 2 seconds, so he was forced to use it. It had to come to that after all. He didn't need to activate anything this time. He only needed to let it out, to make it free. John's tattoos turned black. Vivid, living, ominous black. The black that swallows all colors. And he was right in front of the dragon, opening his maws with his bare hands. There was no one to believe this thing, but it was true. When Mermolnir attempted to swallow Mirren, John stood forward and opened the dragon's mouth with his bare hands. Even Mermolnir felt powerless in front of whatever that was. Wulfur jumped and grabbed Mirren away as John let go of the dragon's jaws. It was then when Mermolnir and John met eye to eye. Mermolnir's draconic eyes shimmering with rage and lust for battle, while John's eyes were back, pitch black with no white, as if he was a demon. Even his teeth were darkening. Nothing natural about the current John. Only evil was in control, as John showed a twisted smile that grew wider. Only inhuman monsters were fighting from this moment on. P4 Trey 0N. Pat times Rayon. com/Eldokmizi. Remove times. YouTube. YouTube.com/channel/UCR. 7RT. 7 NWOJIRA 0S 7 CJFRJDW. Discord. GG/GKCKVA7. Instagram @Don_Dokmisi. Twitter @Eldokmizi22. Chapter 514, Dragon Rising 6. A year ago. Before all creation, fate was already set in stone, and all worlds were to emerge from chaos and fall to it, then re-emerge again for the final apocalypse. Chaos comes in many forms and through many ways, but those forms all have one source. A source that influences the whole universe beyond what any Daedra or Edra can achieve. The source of Padme and the form that Sidhis was shaped in its shadow and molded into its frame, the heart of chaos. Be it evil, death, famine, or war. The heart of chaos thrives on all these four aspects of disaster. Thus, it is as twisted as evil, as eternal as death, as terrifying as famine, and most importantly, as unavoidable as war. Throughout the ages, a few souls dared to venture this deep into the place where the Creator left his creation into its most primal form, not as cloven asunder, as all the heavens and the earths. It was a sea of chaos that no matter where one looks, it is darkness over darkness. To survive, John had to go through a tough choice. For an unknowable time, as time wasn't a thing in the new, the sea of chaos, John held Nefertiti close to himself, as a simple try to escape has already exhausted her fully. There was no magicka for the two to rely on except what is left inside their souls, which without, they die. John did his best to keep them from disintegrating by the chaos, but he soon exhausted himself. He may have just defeated Mannimarco and cast him inside the void, but one thing is certain and clear. John may have upset the balance, and for it he paid a price. He can only hope for a savior to extend a hand to him. But deep into this endless void where even Sidhis is nothing but one of its many extensions, who can save John, and how much should he endure? There was no answering this question, but thanks for all the time he spent learning and researching, John decided to do something a sane person would never do. He concealed himself in his own time. With greed nearby, John created a shadow cocoon, an instrument of time manipulation. There, John sealed himself and Nefertiti amidst all chaos, waiting for anyone or anything to get him out. He never cared about the price he must pay, even if it is some chaos infection. He only wanted out. Little did he know the shocking secret that was waiting for him. That part was just to clarify how John got the chaos infection. Still, that story will continue later. Present day. Just like anything in the world, chaos can be harnessed, and despite being one of the most difficult elements in creation, it is undoubtedly the most powerful thing that can be controlled. Those who can minimize the harm of chaos are the ones who can benefit from it the most, and that's where John comes in. Thanks to the mystical tattoos that Beth drew on him, John could channel a portion of that chaos infection into the tattoo, and the result was like nothing anyone can expect. A man made of flesh and bone, holding the maws of a beast identified as a dragon, and forcing them wide open. The Altmare who was about to be devoured by the dragon was saved, and still, the man kept holding the dragon's maws from each other. Nothing looked half as manly in the eyes of those gasping Nords. Even the dragon was having a hard time believing he was forced into this situation. The standoff between the man and the dragon came to an end when the dragon's inner throat lit with fire as he was breathing out a stream of flame. This was a show of power from the dragon that didn't need to use his mouth parts to use the Thursdayum. John's eyes turned cold as he reversed the situation right away. Instead of forcing the dragon's jaws open, he forced them shut by holding the dragon's head down to an eye-to-eye level. The black tattoos looked more vivid on his arms as he exerted their ability to its full potential in controlling the chaos infection. The dragon quickly regained control as he started pulling his head back out of John's reach. The stalemate this time was between two terrifying creatures that were admitted by the ones surrounding them to be monsters of a different league, and the two were also taking each other at the center of their full attention. "You are brave, Balinhokaran, worthy opponent. Your defeat shall bring me honor." Mermolner spoke. "I'll stone you to death, motherfucker." John's reply was followed by a kick to the side of the dragon's face, sending the whole creature backward in a furious state. John wanted to keep attacking, but after one step towards the dragon, he lost power in his body and fell on one knee. At the same time, the black tattoo faded away and the chaos infection was deactivated. No! Damn it! John felt frustrated as his chaos boost seemed to have ended. "Master, your body can't endure more. This is bad for your heart." A telepathic signal came from Beth, who was watching from a safe distance. John felt his heart, which was beating so hard that it would come out of his chest at this rate. He could tell that he overused his core this time. The core of one's life is the heart, where the most vital energy points exist. The heart is the gateway between the body and the soul. In John's case, his training was now involving his heart, refining it into a spiritual spark, the condensed core of one's years of training. Despite all that, the chaos infection targeted the heart in all manners of attacks and sought out to possess John, but only for his willpower and luck was he able to survive, and with the mystical tattoos he can even benefit from the chaos parasite, but as all powers, it comes with a price. Utilizing the chaos infection would do him a lot of pain equal to what he causes. It is not a solid principle, but the energy he spends through the chaos is as troublesome as swallowing an egg through his nose. Still, it gives an overwhelming power enough to put injuries on a dragon. He gets weaker after using that. "Switch with him." Mirren spoke to Wolfer as the latter was taking him away. "You can't be serious," Wolfer exclaimed. He couldn't understand the reason behind that terrifying power, but he sure felt it was unnatural and dark, darker than anything John used before. But now, as John was in trouble, he had to act. "Why, well, Tershul." Mermolner gave another searing breath with his pride hurt of John's kick, but before the flames could reach the retreating John, a large lump of metal got between John and the fire breath. A majestic and towering shield adorned with enchanted rubies held by one man standing strong to face the dragon's ire. Vognin Pusoger. Disappear insects. The dragon's fire could melt any metal in the world, thus not any ordinary iron was to be used against those dragons, but Wolfer's shield was no ordinary shield. Each one of the red rubies was an artifact of a terrifying might that can withstand the heaviest of magical blows. All these rubies were put on a pattern of an enchantment rune, fortifying it even further to create a shield fit for withstanding a dragon's attack. The craftsmanship left John himself in awe, but he was surprised more by the man holding the shield and facing him. "Wolf, John." The look on Wolfer's face was firm for a couple of seconds until he almost lost control over his shield. "Shit, that's hot." John sprung up and held the large shield with Wolfer as the two were being showered by the dragon's breath. "You asshole. You said you don't want us to interact with you?" Wolfer shoved John with his elbow. "Ouch. Sorry. And what's with the face you're wearing? You think we can't recognize you just because you look like that?" "I said sorry. And no, it is not like that." "Asshole, you bastard. Hold your shield tight." John took enough of Wolfer's upset attitude and gave him the shield to control. Meanwhile, he called out his magicka and dual casted a lightning spell into the ground. 2 lines of light appeared on the ground and traveled through it around Wolfer towards the dragon from the 2 sides. Once they took enough distance, 2 streaks of lightning came out at the dragon's eyes from both sides. "Vic! Damnation!" Mermolner shrieked in pain as he was too invested in attacking John, not realizing the dirty sneak attack John prepared. At that time, Mermolner started rampaging around to not get sneaked on by John. It was a chaotic situation, but the warriors of Whiterun were handling it carefully. Meanwhile, John and Wolfer appeared behind the watchtower, catching their breath as one rested on his knees while the other on the tower. John looked up to see Wolfer's pained expressions after withstanding the dragon for that long. He smiled cheekily at Wolfer, and the latter opened his eyes while looking at John with a tired face. John gave off a short laugh. Wolfer showed an upset face as he looked down only for his shoulders to start shaking. Ha! The two started laughing hysterically, holding one another. Fucker! It has been 2 years. 2 fucking years, and you come back with a dragon. Ha! You twisted bastard. Yeah, heard you're a dad now. You heard right. I became a daddy before you. Asshole, who do you think your daddy is? Nice comeback, but the world is burning over there. Yeah, that's one big lizard with a severe case of inflammation. Very funny, but jokes aside, how are you going to handle this? Wolfer asked. John was wrecking his brain over the current problem. The dragon indeed has some unthinkable high firepower, but that isn't the current problem. John can handle any kind of assault. The problem here was the dragon's defensive power, which was very troublesome. Any attack from those ones John dished out during the fight would turn a normal person to pieces, but this dragon was simply too durable. Even John's magic couldn't blind him. I don't want to use my flashy stuff right at the get-go, but I think I can kill this dragon as soon as it is held down. John said. Held down? You can do that? Wolfer asked. Me? No. John replied with a solemn face, then smiled all of a sudden. But I have a plan. Want to see the new trick I learned? Tragedies and deaths were the current theme of Skyrim since the start of the Civil War earlier this year, so the appearance of a dragon marked an unwelcome source of more death and destruction. As brave and hardy the men were, it would be of great loss to see all those warriors dying to this senseless fire-breathing beast. Jarl Balgruuf solely believed in that, and thankfully, many of the people around were level-headed individuals who saw the horrors of the current war and wished to avoid the loss of life. If they died now, then no one will defend Whiterun and all the women and children over there. Bring down this beast. Don't let it fly. Hronger shouted as he threw a hawk chain at the dragon's wings, trying to entangle it through the soft scales of the wings, only to find it almost impossible to hack. Frustrating as it was, the warriors could only rely on the mages to limit the movements of the dragon at the moment. Roar! Mermolner was still enraged by John's spell that hit his eyes and stopped breathing fire. Instead, he started trying to devour some of those warriors or hurt them with his wings and tail. The tail attack would sweep through those warriors and flatten the weak of them, but before he could turn and have his sick way with them, they get teleported away by someone. To Mermolner, this was one of the most frustrating fights he ever had. Not only his opponents are absurdly strong, but also absurdly resourceful. They were unable to harm him, but they minimized his damage to a shaming degree. He may have killed 10 or so warriors since the start, but if it continues at this terrible pace, he would be shamed and become the laughingstock of the other Dov. Hi Klav Poffen dir, Strunbach You ants all shall die, storm wrath lightning. Enraged, Mermolner let out a terrifying shout. This was not a hunt anymore, but Mermolner wanted to overkill those insolent prey that rudely resisted him for too long. Thus, he called for a storm to smite them down. Not just an ordinary Thursday, but officially the most terrifying one known to date, a shout that shifts the weather in the middle of a cloudless summer day, bringing the dreadful thunder. The sky darkened with clouds of ire, and rumbled with a drumming thunder ringing in the ears of those who heard it. This was a terrible disaster about to come at them. The first few rumbles were without lightning, but with the magic taking its effect, a bolt of bright lightning flashed in the sky. Kine, hear my plea. As the men lowered their heads, cowering from certain doom, one young woman stood her ground ahead of the lines, facing the anger of the sky. She raised her staff and voiced out a prayer that defied the thunder. To her presence, the flashing lightning fell away from the crowd. Alina was the child of Kine, the true daughter of the storm. No storm harms her, and with her plea, Mermolner lost control of the storm that is now in the hands of Kine. Roar! Mermolner was now more frustrated than ever. It was too insulting for a dragon to get his Thursday interrupted for the second time. It was the time to put pride aside and spam all the Thursday he can at the moment. Why well tour. Boom. Surprise, motherfucker. This was more surprising than the dragon storm just now. A boulder came flying and exploded at the dragon's face. Mermolner rolled his eyes, realizing that the other annoying person from a while ago has returned, so he turned to John and released the Thursday he successfully maintained. Shul. Bastard. That's cheating. John didn't face the fire breath and turned to run as soon as he could. Another one. Boom. Another boulder came flying out of nowhere and struck the dragon right on the head. Mermolner stopped his fire breath and faced Wolfer in a second. Wolfer froze in his place and pointed at John. His idea. Mermolner turned to John only to. Boom. That's the third one in a row. Sure you are a dragon? John said. Sure. You are dumb. Boom. Meow. Nefertiti licked her paws at a safe distance. Swoosh. Mermolner intercepted the coming boulder and avoided it. Huh. You won't hit me again. Mermolner spread his wings, flinging away the boulder. Damn. So you can use your head after all. And here I was going to call you Mermolner. May equals fool. Jor. I'll devour your flesh and send your soul to my lord. I'll hunt every last Now, with Mermolner staying still to threaten John long enough, it gave the chance for the mages on Wider side to evoke enough spell and keep them on hold. With that done, a barrage of spells landed on Mermolner from all corners. Asterisk roar. Star. Enraged, the dragon spread his wings to free himself from the dirty trap he fell into, and with one flap, a strong wind pressure blew the mages and sent a wave of rubble at them. Warriors, protect the mages. Mages, reinforce the warriors. Archers, buy them time. Alina coped with the chaotic situation in a second and started reorganizing the forces all by herself. This is amazing. It's exciting how the dragon can do all these moves. On the other hand, one mage walked off the formation and wanted to inspect the dragon real close, not minding the grim situation. Master Farengar, please come back. A Nord mage called for the obsessed man. Shut up. We need to get any sample we can get. Whoa. Yo, Balgriff. Why are you carrying? For a smear's sake. Get back, you fool. The united front stood solid, facing the dragon to limit his movements while the strong heroes kept dealing damage to him. Stoning the dragon seemed fun but risky, yet it was getting the job done for some reason. What is the plan? Alina asked on a telepathic signal. Hello. Please keep doing what you're doing. Master is acting accordingly. Beth replied to her. What is this? Is there a child on our signal? Jelinar wondered. I am Beth. This is Master Signal. Who are you? Oh, Beth. Master? A sudden misunderstanding happened on John's personal telepathic frequency that, of course, was heard by everyone on the signal. Dragon now. Introduction later. Isha didn't realize the situation and continued. All right, the plan is to corner the dragon beside the tower. Keep up the pressure. Beth conveyed the plan. I will see to it. Bombardment. The mages started shooting all their magic in a frenzied manner. With such heavy blows, the dragon was indeed retreating where Alina wanted. John and Wolfer didn't spare the dragon from the flying boulders. It was akin to a couple of living catapults holding boulders a few times their size and tossing them around. At last, the dragon was finally trapped at the base of the tower. The reason why Mermolner wasn't flying was the heavy resistance from the ground. He is invincible as long as he protects himself, but if he received those attacks while taking off to fly, it may turn deadly to him. One of the weak points of dragons is the moment they take off as they become exposed. Yet with his back to the tower, Mermolner couldn't imagine himself disadvantaged, as it is even better to fight this way, without any sneak attack coming at him. This was his thoughts until he heard that sound. Crackle, crackle, crackle. The crackling sound of metallic objects colliding wasn't truly unpleasant unless those objects were chains. From above, Mermolner saw a man jumping off the tower with two long chains extending to that tower. The man moved across the air, as if he was flying, and landed ahead of Mermolner, then turned to him while everyone else thought, that is his plan? John turned to Mermolner with a wide smile that was turning sadistic. I call this one Castle Breaker. With his legs taking a firm stance, his butt cheeks hardening, his back muscling, his shoulders intensifying, his chest broadening, and his arms bulging. John took a bit of the chains and around his hands and took a wide step back, pulling. Many failed to understand at first, including Mermolner, but who would have thought that a dragon tilting his head would be cute? Only John, though, so, by the way. It was a mass revelation when the current sound was heard. Crack, crack, crack. The warriors and mages looked up at the tower with pale faces, while Mermolner turned back. Human you? Told you. I'll stone you to death, motherfucker. P4 Tray 0N. Pat times Rayon. com/Eldokmizi. Remove times. YouTube. YouTube.com/channel/UCR. 7RT7 NWOJRA 0S7 CJFRGDW. Discord GG/GKCKVA7. Instagram @Don_Dokmisi. Twitter @Eldokmizi22. Chapter 515, Dragon Rising 7. I'll be adding a pic for the realistic dragon. Human size ratio on Instagram and Discord. Castle Breaker. A new legend was born in Whiterun that day, when the culprit of the whole mess pulled down the watchtower on the head of the dragon. It was simply a spectacle to behold. Regardless of anything else, all covered their heads, fearing the raining rubble of the falling tower. With a cloud of dust blocking the view, the warriors of Whiterun kept their feet ready to either run forward or backward. Alina wasn't waiting for the results to appear with the cloud of dust settling, so she moved her hand, causing a gust of wind to push away the dust. With that, the scene appeared vivid and clear. John was standing with two long chains extending from his gauntlets to a large pile of rubble where an unimaginable scene was witnessed. The dragon, that terrorized the people for an hour straight, was buried under the rubble with barely his wings and tail visible. Who would have thought? Who could have imagined? The beast is slain, someone shouted. With this cry, all woke up from their daze. By shore. Is this real? I can't believe it. It was too incredible to believe right away. A man, just a single man, managed to pull down the tower on the head of the dragon, killing it in the most unexpected way. The dragon, it is dead. We made it. Its claws. Its claws took my son. I claim the dragon claws. I will bathe in the blood of a dragon tonight. Its heart is mine. With it, I'll rename my clan Dragonheart. I want the eyes. As soon as the state of disbelief was over, another state followed. No one wanted to see such a scene, but seeing the corpse of the dragon, all wanted the same thing. A piece of the dragon, a piece of glory. All people were crazed about the dragon, before even licking their wounds. Everything about the dragon was simply a treasure. Even the court wizard of Whiterun, Farengar, was screaming like a madman, wanting to take all the dragon for research. The bizarre situation left some people in shock, as it left others in disbelief. What kind of bullshit is this? John is the one who slew the dragon. Why would? Jelinar was angrily retorting, but Alina covered her mouth. Isha stood away from the ground, holding a small pebble, and tossed it away to hit Wolfer's armor. What was that? Wolfer asked. My faith in humanity, she said. All of you quiet. Alina shut them up. All looked at her, seeing seriousness in her eyes. What's wrong? Wolfer asked. All those who step ahead of John in the next few seconds will die a miserable death. Alina prophesied something that left the others in a state of confusion. Still, her words were accurate and clear as ever. Those people who were moved by greed ran towards the dragon with their swords and axes, wanting to cut a piece of the beast. They didn't mind John, who was standing still while his expressions couldn't be read. Once they arrived at the ruble and started climbing it, their whole world of blunder started to shake metaphorically and in actuality. The dragon is still alive, and oh boy, he is far from being defeated. Jor Hyragadze! Mortals, you anger me. The supposedly dead dragon came to life even though hindered by the rubble, it spoke another shout. Fasaroda! The tower that crumbled on the head of Mermolner became the demise of those greedy ones that wished to loot the dragon. Thankfully, the fools weren't many, but the fools were dead from the impact of the unrelenting force. They were beyond help in all cases. John finally moved from his frozen stance by following the dragons with his head as the latter rose with all its might, about to unleash his wrath at the humans who fought him so annoyingly. Mermolner was more than just annoyed. He was frustrated, and his scales were carrying many injuries from that tower that fell on his head. Killing those greedy individuals was a refreshing turn, but the true hunt was in that big game, standing face to face with him. Jor, you tried your best. You fought with both honor and dishonor, yet you can't kill me. You are not strong enough. It is your turn to be hunted now. Do your worst. John's reply came as swift as a challenge. John knew. He could tell that Mermolner was bluffing. Both of them were tired. The dragon in front of him may have been a creature that lived through eras and centuries without withering or dying, but that doesn't mean it is eternal. Even for a dragon, there was a limit. On the other hand, John was not only tired but also hiding some of his cards. On the martial side, John didn't hold back at all, but on the magic side, John's identity will be exposed once he starts using his signature spells. Let alone the signature spells, few could match his skill at magic, and his disguise may be seen through. On top of all that, he can't simply use the Thursday in his first fight against a dragon, and for a good reason. So far, he has to stick to his plan. Unfortunately, this wasn't going to be easy, as Mermolner wasn't going to let it be. He is now hell-bent on hunting down John, even if it is the last thing he'd ever do. Yet with John's skills and power, Mermolner had to play dirty too. When someone wants to hunt a strong foe, one must lay a trap. In this situation, the trap was over there across the plains, the treasure of those warriors and mages who came in a horde to earnestly defend Whiterun City. Jor, if you want to keep fighting, let's take this elsewhere. Mermolner moved his wings and rose in the air towards Whiterun. Bastard, who's playing dirty now? John was infuriated, but little could do in the situation. Everyone else realized what was going to happen and almost panicked. Stop it. Shoot down the dragon, hurry. Jarl Balgruuf panicked, seeing where the dragon was intending to go. John and everyone else started racing the dragon to the east, hoping to hinder him before he gets the chance to unleash his fires on Whiterun. Then when Alina gave a signal, the men in the back, shoot the ballistas. Now! Her voice was heard clear and strong across the plain, as if it was carried by the wind itself. Once it reached those in the back, they started preparing the heavy artillery around them. Meanwhile, Mermolner took the chance to descend on the retreating men, burning and swallowing whoever he sees toying with the weak mortals. You truly are scum. John couldn't tolerate any more death, and finally let go of a strong lightning bolt that hit the dragon with a mighty blast. Mermolner roared in agonizing pain, but he was aiming for the moment when John attacked him. As the one famed for being a hunter among the dragons, Mermolner was not a direct fighter, but rather a chaser and a trapper. He would hunt rather than fight, and the biggest game in this field is undoubtedly John. That's why when John proved to be a resilient prey, Mermolner started attacking the other humans to push John out of his guard and lure him into a trap. There, when John decreased the distance between himself and Mermolner, the latter was not actually focusing on anything except John. With John this close, Mermolner moved his tail in an unseeable speed, striking John in a split of a second. Shit! John felt as if his bones were breaking apart, but he soon adapted with the situation and didn't resist the attack. He rather teleported himself on the other side of Mermolner and landed a full-force Thunder Cookie. Roar! It was too painful that Mermolner almost felt the damage deep inside his body. Thus was an unprecedented danger level that he didn't expect to suffer, but the plan was to go on with, not to stop right now. Mermolner shook off the clingy John and took off one more time towards Whiterun without stopping. Now! Alina shouted, and terrifying mechanical sounds started sounding by as the large war machines at the back were all shooting at Mermolner. Would na, KSD. Whirlwind Fury Tempest. Mermolner perceived the danger of those man-made killing machines and shouted the whirlwind sprint, Medare avoiding most of the ballista bolts. Still, he suffered a bit of damage. Again, Alina shouted but Mermolner towards her. Why, well, tw'r shul. Would na, kst. Two shouts sounded almost at the same time. The first was Mermolner breathing fire at Alina, and the latter was Alina escaping him. A Thursday a master? In this day and age? Mermolner was dumbfounded when Alina used the whirlwind sprint to avoid him. Not only was she a voice master, but she seemed as annoyingly powerful as that persisting warrior. She avoided him and kept shooting spells as powerful as that man's punches. This was leaving him no more option, but he kept dragging east, and now that the ballista line was not able to attack him, he can freely descend on Whitron. With Mermolner breaking away, John and the others seemed frustrated as they failed in almost every attempt to stop the flying brute. It was frustratingly hard just to scratch his scales. This can't keep going. We must stop the dragon, or else Whitron will suffer innumerable casualties, Alina said as she broke the silence and spoke directly to John. John sighed with a tired face and looked towards the dragon, thinking of something. He then looked behind him and saw the warriors of Whitron broken in a sorry state. This has to end. Isha, your spear, John said. Isha silently passed the spear of bitter mercy at John, who took it and stored it in the cube. He then looked at Wolfer. Can you still launch people? John asked. Oh, how far? Wolfer asked back. That far? John pointed towards the dragon. Bastard! Wolfer exclaimed, looking between John and the dragon, then reluctantly nodded. Send me then, John said, and Wolfer carried his large metal shield up. Let's not waste time then. With a mutual understanding, the two nodded and started running forward. You'll owe me a shield. You hear me? Wolfer said. I'll bring you the bestest shield you'll ever carry. With wide strides, the two were already ahead of the group, chasing the dragon with the speed of galloping horses. John could indeed fly, but he'll never be as fast as a dragon. He needed the right boost for the coming launch, and Wolfer was the right guy. Wolfer had learned a unique technique that uses shields as weapons, but sacrifices all the protection they provide. This technique would cause an explosion with a violent blast that can literally make anyone on its other side fly for a fair distance. Actually, Wolfer has learned this technique by observing the giants launching people to space, and here it came. As John and Wolfer gained enough momentum, John sped forward, and Wolfer struck him from behind. The next thing seen was a human transcending the speed any human being was ever tossed at. Wolfer was holding a broken spear with a pale face while John's were widened from the shock. John moved towards the dragon in a straight line, not controlling his flight one bit. He tried to remember how he was struck from his running speed to this level of madness, but all he remembers was the sight of the world widening, then stretching, and finally the image of the dragon was getting larger in his sight. Whoa! This was beyond anything he has ever done. Getting himself blasted towards a dragon by a giant technique used by Wolfer. This was getting too awesome even for him. The excitement gave him a sense of life as he screamed his lungs out while being a couple of seconds away from the dragon. Mermolner felt it as well. This was the most vivid hint of danger a dragon ever felt when he caught a glimpse of the flying maniac chasing him. John's appearance was terrifying in all sense, as he resembled a flying arrow with his head forward and his smile visible. Mermolner knew this was bad. Waiting for John to hit him is seriously inadvisable, while shouting him will take time. He had to evade at all costs. Indeed, Mermolner managed to tilt aside with John uncontrollably charging forward. At the moment of the supposed clash, John didn't even bother trying to chase the dragon. That was not the plan anyway. Instead, it was to ambush him forward. John passed Mermolner like a loosened arrow, and the dragon fixed his destination forward once again, but he saw a tiny string of metal extending to the upper limit of his sight and an uncomfortable feeling on one of his horns. Looking forward, it was John throwing one of Ozidal's titan hands again. Mermolner realized his blunder when John was raising the other hand, and it was glowing with bright lightning. This time, John added a bit of chaos to the mix, making the mystical tattoos on his arms appear in black. Sucker Cookie. Asterisk Kwong. Star. The speed of John's flying grip pulling him towards Mermolner with the dragon heading straight forward. The sound of the clash was as terrifying as it appeared. The dragon hunt party, the city guards on the wall, the brave citizens who volunteered to defend their homes, the team of Winterhold, the team of the Labours, the companions of Jorvasker, the Jarl and his men, even the ones who were there by mistake, all those people saw an image that was engraved in their minds for ages to come. A man flying with a bright fist towards a dragon that charged forward all in the sky, and the blinding spectacle of the clash, making the bright sky of day darkens in its glamour. In that instant, the whole situation flipped, and the dragon was on the losing side. The punch sent the dragon's head in the wrong direction, with the dragon himself being forced out of his trajectory backward with the punch. It was too glorious that the men who saw it felt a massive rush of male hormones from the sight of it. Just like how John forced the dragon's mouth open, his punch was another symbol of manliness to those Nords. Hiya! The glorious scene was enough for them to cheer madly, but that didn't last long. John had one more trick to spare under his sleeves. With Mermolner bent backward, John had to prevent him from fixing his position or making a comeback, so he moved towards the back of the dragon's neck, chained it well, then cast Gravity Rune on himself. A dragon would naturally resist this spell, but as he didn't resist it, he became unexpectedly heavy for Mermolner to balance, and the fall happened. Thud! Mermolner was just brought down by an RKO. A massive fall shook the world as the men, women, and animals inside and outside Whiterun felt the very impact under their feet, and some even tumbled from the shockwave that passed through the ground. This tiny earthquake caused by a falling dragon may have had a strong impact on the people, but the dragon in question was greatly harmed. Physical wounds are hard to inflict on a dragon, but this fall caused a strong inner injury that may have caused a fracture somewhere inside Mermolner. A welcome change to a certain John who managed to evade getting crushed under the dragon with a timely maneuver. However, unlike the last time when John brought down the tower on Mermolner, none thought of anything silly or greedy. The dragon is clearly still alive, but no matter what they do, none would be able to kill him. Actually, they are now scared. Scared of the dragon. Scared of the man who is standing in front of the dragon. Scared of what will happen next between the man and the dragon. Meanwhile, John and Mermolner faced one another in an epic image of a man holding the broken dragon with a chain in one hand and a long spear in the other hand. Mermolner was lying on his side, trying to recover from the stun, but was still ill, keeping both eyes on John. "Mon human, you finally fought with honor." All of a sudden, Mermolner spoke, but his voice wasn't loud or anything. It was weakened because of the damage that was done to his neck, and only John could hear him. "Zu fun hiwasivs voth anwo, du hin raz. I remember telling you to find honor with someone of your size." John replied back in Dovizul, the dragon tongue. It came both as a shock and a surprise to Mermolner. The following conversation is going to be in the Dovizul, but I'll just write it English. "Mortal, so you can talk? You hid your power well. It was your arrogance that brought your demise, Mermolner. You thought no one out there is able enough to bring you down, to kill you. Now you are arrogant. Killing me is fruitless. I have long since paid tribute to my lord. Once a tribute is paid, my lord will bring me back, and the others will keep challenging the man powerful enough to defeat me. I am indeed arrogant, but you are still way over your head. Alduin can reverse time and return the dead dragons, but there is always a limit. Just like Shore to Oriel, I am the limit." John was done talking and now hunting. Mermolner wanted to retreat, but the spear of bitter mercy was there to claim lives. With one overpowered stab, John pierced the soft spot on Mermolner's neck, twisting the grip as the tip sinks in the dragon's flesh. Mermolner wasn't he ready? It was a strange feeling nonetheless, getting killed by a mere mortal. How could he describe getting killed? It was hard to say. Mermolner was always a smart one, even among his kind. He wasn't reckless or anything like today. After all, He is one of the few that survived in the wild for almost 4,000 years. Today was just the day when he intended to celebrate Alduin's return with a glorious hunt. But to be put down during his celebration, this was too embarrassing. Even when Alduin comes to revive him, there will be a lot of scolding. To dragons, normal death is just slumber, and with another dragon powerful enough to bring them back, this wouldn't be a big problem aside from the price they have to pay to the dragon that revived them. Still, this feeling of shame was soon replaced by strange emotions, feelings that didn't belong to Mermolner. He felt those strange emotions that were mostly not his. There was a strong hint of admiration rather than the familiar self-pride, an unrecognized feeling of sadness and regret. Ideas of ancient majestic beings, deities that were once worshipped, witnesses to all the events of recorded and unrecorded history. These thoughts surely refer to dragons, but weren't how the dragons thought of themselves, at least not Mermolner. The surprise was that these emotions are that if the man killing him. But how could Mermolner feel what John was feeling? Both John and Mermolner were experiencing something beyond them, seeing through one another beyond any wall, beyond the comfortable and uncomfortable, beyond what is all unnecessary directly at what matters. The dragon's perspective of seeing things where truth and power are equals and the same. The mortal's perspective of seeing things where every tiny factor had an impact on the insignificant yet important lives they lived. Aside from the differences, the similarities were more striking than anyone dared to admit. The love, the hate, the fear, the courage, the thrill, the boredom, the wisdom, the foolishness. In 1 second, the two experienced each other of what they truly are beyond the barriers of privacy, awkwardness, or self. Just two fragile tiny beings being pushed around by the unrelenting waves of the bigger scheme of things. There was no need to exchange any words in this second that was elongated to feel like an age, but one thing is certain, as all things, it is coming to an end. Here, Mermolner understood the reason for the strange phenomenon. None of the dragons he knew ever spoke of this, but if he experienced such a state of empathic linkage, such a drive to submission, such a taste of mortality, this means that he is more than just going to a slumber death. Now that he thinks of it, this feeling was rarely spoken of by the dragons of the higher ranks. No, it was that the taboo among the Dav, the unwritten role, the unspoken code, the hearable prayer. The one thing dragons feel injustice towards. The feeling when a dragon kills another. Dovakian P4TRE0N Pat times Rayon. com/Eldokmizi. Remove times. YouTube. com/channel/UCR. 7RT7 NWOJRA 0S7 CJFRJDW. Discord. GG/GKCKVA7. Instagram at Don_Dokmisi. Twitter at Eldokmizi22. Chapter 516, Identity Incognita. I read some annoying comments upset about John deceiving people with this identity coverage. Well, congratulations. You just earned yourself 2 more chapters of juicy political explanations. Have fun. Smiling face with horns. Jarl Balgruuf the Greater, the ruler of Whiterun and the defender of the domain, opened his eyes with the rays of the sun driving the sleep away. He woke up with a heavy head, tired eyes, and a beaten body, seeing the woman on the other side of his bed that was mostly the culprit of his current unbalance of senses. Sigh. Just how much did he sigh those last few days? Even yesterday was a day that broke the record for him. Woman, wake up. Get my garments. It is almost noon already. TSK. The old knocker got you or something. Balgruuf spoke, waking up his wife. He'll get you before he gets me. Your things are ready. Just leave me alone. She replied as harshly as he called for her. Old couples were friendly in most cases, but as soon as age hits a certain point, they keep teasing each other with death jokes from time to time, like how Balgruuf mentioned the old knocker, aka the Grim Reaper. Just wake up already. The family should come along when I receive Thane John Hild. The man has like 50 women following him or something. You old leecher. Go, and I'll follow you already. Quit looking at women, or I'll gouge your eyes out. Jarl Balgruuf was chased out of his room by his wife. Even though the couple had it well last night, all good things were bound to never last. The Jarl walked off after carelessly putting on a new set of ornate raiments. Those ones from last night should be reeking with booze. Thinking of last night never gave Jarl Balgruuf any peace of mind. They slew a dragon, and that man absorbed the dragon's soul. A Dragonborn? John Dare is a Dragonborn. As if he needs more excuses to power up. Just what kind of a ticking bomb was sleeping over in the Jarl's guest house? Soon, everyone in Skyrim. No, everyone in the Empire will flock to see that Dragonborn and curry favor with him. Some will even try to drag him in their political drama and use him as leverage, but that won't be a tiny tad possible. Why? Because no one will ever know the identity of the Dragonborn that Jarl Balgruuf was entrusted with. It all happened from that moment when that terrible dragon screamed its last breath with 2 words. No! Dovahkiin, 1,000 men or more witnessed the fall of the dragon Mermolner and were dropping their jaws from the wild phenomenon that wasn't witnessed in centuries. Oblivion, it was barely witnessed even in the fables of old. A man slaying a dragon and taking his soul. Let alone the absurdity, let alone the logic, let alone anything else. A man slew a dragon and gained its power. The divines must be playing some sick joke in these dark times of distress and war. But no, that wasn't a divine joke, but something of a blessing and a slap. The simpleton commoners would celebrate the birth of a hero, but the calculative powerhouses would reorganize their cards all over again. A Dragonborn appearing in this day and age to kill a dragon means that history is about to be written. But who is that? Who is the man standing over the body of a dragon with his back to the crowd and his face so ordinary and easily forgettable? They just needed one look, not the calculative powerhouses, but also the simpleton commoners. They just wanted to see his face and engrave it in this memory, no matter how ordinary that man's face is. But to no avail. They walked towards him from all corners, wishing to greet him, venerate him, recognize him. Still, the events unfolding were faster than them. The dragon's soul was being absorbed. People could see fine strands of power flowing from the dead dragon to that man, but as soon as they got closer, everything started glowing. They thought that the man was absorbing the soul at first, but it seemed that it was only the beginning. The dragon's carcass glowed and started turning into light and disintegrating. Divines! That dragon, the mysterious beast with terrifying powers whose scales were unbreakable and wings were broad and proud, started turning into waves of light that flowed into the body of the man. What was left was a mere skeleton. There were a lot of emotions fighting each other here. On one hand, there was a legendary hero from the prophecies. On another, there goes the priceless carcass of the dragon that everyone was keeping in mind all the time. But the bones, they should be good, right? If absorbing the dragon's soul meant that it is impossible to recover its carcass, then there is nothing to do with it. At least the bones are fabled to be better than any known metal. But hold on a second. Here goes the bones as well. Well, now that's absurd. If a dragon kills another, then the dead dragon loses his soul and becomes a skeleton. But why has the skeleton disappeared just now? The answer is simply, it is obvious that the devil is in the details, or rather, he is just standing right over there taking the huge skeletal remains in the cube, making it as if the bones disappear as well. Well played, master. In the cube, Beth was receiving the gigantic skeletal remains with a huge jump as she touched it in wonder. Still, John didn't answer her. He was busy at the moment. It was hard to focus, too hard to control. If Beth didn't remind him to take the dragon skeleton just now, he may have remained in his daze, but it was only getting stronger. John was losing control altogether. The sin artifacts, the mystical tattoos, the chaos infection, even Nefertiti in his shadow. It was all going into madness. It was because of none other than the dragon's soul. What power! What energy! What vigor! The dragon soul was too powerful as it is. Too overwhelming and full of power. Even John lost all the confidence he had to handle such a thing. His body was bathed in pain. Not a bad pain, but another kind of pain, a pain he is very familiar with. The pain of absorbing power and knowledge. The dragon soul was more than just the life energy of a dragon, but a piece of an Edra, a divine fragment of one of the 8 pillars of the Mundus. Dragons, Dragonborns, Akatosh the dragon, Oriel the eagle, Alkosh the cat, Alduin the world eater. These are all faces of the same coin. The Akka, the time, broken to fragments for the sake of creating the beginning, Oriel, the present Akatosh and Alkosh, the end Alduin, with dragons and dragonborns between those bigger fragments. Think of it as a large piece of mirror that broke into big pieces and small pieces. The big pieces are the Oriel, Akatosh, Alkosh and Alduin, while the smaller ones are the dragons and the dragonborns. Unlike the dragons, who are natural small fragments, the dragonborns were fragments created by Akatosh for the sake of gathering the dragon souls and returning them to the bigger pieces. The dragons live forever as they are immune to the effect of aging. So Akatosh exploited the mortality of the humans to create the dragonborns that can absorb the dragon souls upon killing them, and once those mortal humans die, Akatosh gets to reclaim all the dragon souls, and the time becomes more stable, causing the existence of the Culpa to be prolonged. The Culpa is a time loop which keeps resetting the world from the end of the Dawn era to whenever Alduin eats the world. Even though Alduin has the role to come later and devour the time of the world to end the Culpa, it was necessary to cull down the numbers of the dragons by returning them to Akatosh and ensure the continuation of the present. That is all there is to it. That is the role of a Dragonborn. John knew so from the start, but what he understood through absorbing the soul of Mermulner felt like more of a magnificent knowledge and endless enlightenment. These wild flashes of memory were all over the place, but John and the system were madly organizing them too fast. That's why John wasn't focusing on his surroundings one bit. If you want me to gather those dragon souls so I hand them over to you once I die, at least let me exploit all this power. I promise to abuse it to the best of my ability. John thought as he started dismantling the dragon soul on the spot. Assimilating its knowledge, understanding its magnitude, using every part of it to maximize the reward. John was having something incredible in his hands this time. If he refines the energy of that dragon soul, who knows how much power and benefits he will get. Before, he estimated it would take him another 100 years to reach the apex of his method of training, but he just chipped 4 years of intensive training and effort in one go. It is not yet perfect, but in theory, there are many things he could do with the dragon soul, but at the time he was focusing on something else. Something that was awakening inside him, filling him with life and power. Something he knew that it was inside him the moment he reincarnated, but it started to show itself now. Capabilities beyond the realm of man, endless possibilities, and overpowered strength. New blessing received. Blessing of Akatosh. Dragonborn. Blessing of Akatosh absorbs the blessing of the Dragon Guardian. Blessing of the Dragon Guardian. Ashen Flame evolves into Blessing of Akatosh, Dragon's Fire. Blessing of the Dragon Guardian. Dragon Affinity evolves into Blessing of Akatosh, Inner Dragon. If absorbing a dragon's soul awakened his dormant dragon soul, then that was just the beginning. Once the dragon's soul awakened, everything started to change according to it. The old scars on his human soul, the bottlenecks he struggled with, the energy channels he painstakingly cultivated, the energy center where his magicka is stored, the astral access, the eternal flesh, the soul spark. John experienced all the power a dragon can muster, and even saw beyond what he can do. It was by no means something easy to grasp, yet he did grasp it. His hard work all those years was being rewarded as his dragon soul awakened to fit his experience and his hardened body. For a moment there, he saw a glimpse of the true power that moves this universe and gives it purpose. It was a beautiful feeling, an awakening he never thought to experience, but once it ended, John felt bitter as he wanted to experience it one more time, yet alas, it will never be possible to experience such a harmony twice. And John opened his eyes. Back to reality, back to the presence. How could such a couple of seconds equal this much feeling? He wondered. Not much has passed. No one got closer to him yet. He just stored the dragon skeleton away a moment ago and just started tapping into the power of Mermolner when his own dragonborn soul was awakening. He is no longer a mortal now, no longer a human. He is a dragonborn. John smiled. He saw the various system messages coming to him. He saw the blessing of Akatosh with its overwhelming power. He kept smiling as he inspected himself further. Dragonborn? Dragon's fire. Inner dragon. Just what did that Akatosh add without my permission? My ultra-cool ashen flame? My dragon affinity that allows me to speak with cats? My carefully cultivated soul? Damn it. I need to study myself for a month to fully understand all that. That was true. Who said a new power always brought sweet things? There seemed to be a lot of sorting out. Strong powers require more time to perfect, and John Stahl has no idea what he's up against. More to that, he can use a new aura. The first aura he used was the Mad Aura. The second was the Tyrant Aura. They were basic and advanced auras respectively. Now he is entering the final stage of the art of the battle spirit, the Manifested Aura. John was not ready to use it yet. He hid his aura thanks to the mystical tattoos, but the manifestation of the battle spirit is something like a signature move. He can't use it at the moment. Right now, he needs to go to someplace secluded and start studying, but this was not the time. People were approaching him from every corner. The first person to arrive was some warrior that participated in the battle. Once he got close to John, he screamed madly. I can't believe it. You are a Dragonborn? John knew this line very well. He almost wanted to laugh, but he held it. He wanted to turn and face the warrior, but as soon as his foot moved from the ground, it hit something light. John wasn't bothered, but he subconsciously looked towards what that was, and all of a sudden, he almost lost his mind in one go. It was a helm. Just an iron helm. The kind of headgear made in Skyrim with a low level of craftsmanship that doesn't even resist rust. But this helm was unique. It didn't look like anything a craftsman would make for a warrior, but seemed more like a ceremonial helm. The thing is, that helm had horns and looked exactly like the iron helm from the game. That helm that the Dragonborn wears on the game's poster. Even if John wasn't a believer in fate, this would have been too good to be a coincidence. This is a sign, and one he can't ignore. The helm of the Dragonborn was right at his feet. John lowered himself down, picked it up, and stood back again while dusting it off. It seemed to have fallen from some warrior while fighting the dragon. John held it right to his head and put it on. It was a perfect match that covered his face well. It made him confident. He finally turned around and faced the warrior with a smile. Kinsman, what's a Dragonborn? And that concludes it. I am a Dragonborn. It was safe to say that nothing went like the game from the moment the Jarl decided to go fight the dragon. Actually, things are much more logical this way, but whatever. I feel better. Good morning. Good morning. It was the second morning in Whiterun, and my life was just perfect. Everything I hoped for is here. My wife, my beautiful wife. Stop it, will I? No, I'm too happy to stop. Then keep going. I am back between the arms of the one I love. That alone is a blessing I can't possibly deny. My wife just moved away the curtains for the sunlight to illuminate the room, and I pulled her back in bed. I have 2 years' worth of hunger to fulfill. God, I missed you, I said as I tried to undo her robe. I missed you too, she said as she took my hands off the robe and pushed them back. Her face was close to mine as she was about to take the initiative and come closer for a kiss, but as we were getting closer to each other, a third party decided to participate. All of a sudden, Jeliner's face was between ours. Psycho, you two won't get to action without me, Joel said, trying to get between us. TSK, you insolent girl. I remember saying John is all mine this month. Alina jumped off me and held Jeliner down on the bed and started catfighting. Last night, Alina chased away Jeliner, Ela and Miranda off the room, and even sealed it on us, but Jeliner managed to sneak in, and the three of us had a wonderful night. It seemed that by the morning, Alina was pissed at Jel for sneaking in. Seeing the fair and calm wife of mine turn childish and jump over Jel like this, I feel like I missed more than just 2 years. Still, Maybe we made a mess of the Jarl's guest house after we stayed the night here. I feel like this poor furniture won't withstand two raging girls fighting their hearts out. I smiled as I looked away with my head returning to the deep thoughts that were bothering me. Hey, we'll do it or what? Alina's voice interrupted my thoughts, and I returned to them. I could see the two girls over each other with their sleeping robes almost undone as the two were upon each other. Threesome it is then? I asked. You bet. We're tired of being together for the last 2 years. Alina replied. I've heard about that from Ela. It seems that my beautiful wife has taken my 2 girlfriends as hers the time I wasn't around. I said as I approached them. Fu. You can't just leave 2 beautiful maidens and your ultra-gorgeous wife alone without expecting some girl-on-girl action. Alina replied. And we even have a lot of plans for you. Joel continued. I can't help but think of all those evil things we'll do together. As I said so, the 2 girls pushed me back and hopped on me. You'll have to wait until we go home then. Psycho and I are having something special in mind. Alina tempted me more. It was nice to get my head off things and keep myself excited about what sort of erotic dungeon has the 2 constructed in our basement. While knowing the 2, it is possible. While my head was sandwiched between 2 pairs of soft breasts, I returned to my personal heaven, ignoring the shitstorm that was pouring outside because of what I did yesterday. Frankly speaking, John was plotting for this day ever since he reincarnated. Everything was going according to plan. Once he absorbed the dragon's soul heroically and put on the iron helm of the Dragonborn. The people around him started turning crazy. A Dragonborn walking among them. That was the breaking news that was literally breaking everything. How will the Jarls react? How will the Empire react? How will the war get affected? Just as John was afraid, everything was turning to him. The Nords were scary when it came to belief. Everyone knew that the dragon is an incarnation of Ysmir, also known as Ysmir Wolfhearth, the most epic hero of all Nord heroes, a Shezarene, and the Nordic version of Talos. With that under his belt, things were bound to turn chaotic wherever he goes. Annoyingly, John can't let anyone know that the man they all revere as the Dragonborn is actually John Dare, the maniac Thane of Winterhold. The political drama that will follow may cause an awful backlash on the economy and the political standing of Winterhold, or maybe Skyrim. The plan which he made with High King Torrig would go to waste at that rate. Still, this was just one of the reasons why John hid his identity. The other major reason is Winterhold in general. The dragons are not mindless lizards with wings. They are cunning, dangerous, and absolutely manipulative. If his identity is known and his power is feared by the dragons, they will directly attack Winterhold, and he can't just handle them alone. Truth be told, he barely handled one dragon. Those 2 reasons were just the beginning of a long list. Also, wouldn't it be cool if John revealed his identity at the right time when he can gain the most priceless reactions to it? Anyway, none of this meant that his identity would be an absolute secret. Some associates need to know, and that includes a good friend of his, the Jarl of Whiterun, Balgruuf the Greater. Duvain, and those guys as well. I can't believe it. I am hearing right? It is the calling of the Greybeards. This has only happened in legends. By the 8, Balgruuf, let us speak with the Dragonborn. Move aside. I am Alfred, patron of the great clan Battleborn, a name I'm sure you know well. Humph. Move aside, Battleborn. The Greymanes are the best smith Skyrim has known. I am Vigner, and my brother Yerland runs Skyforge. Big challenges, real solutions. Time to join the Empire. Make Skyrim great again. And let's just say that John's fears were way off the mark. They were already about to carry him, each to his faction. With Nefertiti feeling agitated in his shadow, John started praying that another dragon would spawn nearby and rid him of this mess, but he got the next best thing. All right, lords and ladies, we can't trouble the man much longer. Wolfer set the crowd apart with his massive physique, intimidating all those annoying people. Jarl Balgruuf, I am sure you were about to lead us to your keep, right? Can't leave your guests standing here. That's right. Kinsman, we can't stay here longer. I'll throw a banquet at the honor of the Dragonborn here, so make sure you all attend. Until then, guards, clear us away. Jarl Balgruuf controlled the scene thanks to Wulfr, and the remaining guards split into two teams. One that takes care of the aftermath, while the other was to escort the Jarl and the Dragonborn back to Dragon's Reach. The Nords were complaining, but one can't deal with all those crazy fanatics at the same time without suffering from burnout along the way. The situation in Whiterun was chaotic. Actually, every major city in Skyrim heard the call of the Greybeards. It was said that the thundering sound reached south until the Jarl Mountains, a power that reminded everyone who the Greybeards truly are. As Whiterun was the city that heard it the clearest, the streets of the city were already littered with people who wanted to know what was happening. Thankfully, the Jarl's men were swift enough to reach Dragon's Reach without delay. There, Wulfr and John along with the rest of the others were all there. John was still in disguise, refusing to remove the helm off his head. The Jarl took a deep breath and held a goblet of wine, pouring it down his dry throat. His armor was scratched and bloody due to the fight, and his appearance looked as if he had been through hell. Actually, that can be said for all, even John. With everyone picking a seat to rest on, the Jarl found his way to his throne and sat down exhausted. He looked at John and spoke. "May the gods watch over your path, my friend. You have done Whiterun a service I can never ignore. I don't know how to reward you for this, but if you be so kind and let us have a look to memorize your face and record your name, we will prepare a handsome gift worthy of your honor as Dragonborn." The Jarl said. John felt troubled about showing his face, but thankfully, someone had to intervene. "A Dragonborn? What is that?" Proventus, the Jarl's steward, asked. "You don't know?" Hronger, the Jarl's brother, joined the conversation. In the old tales, the Dragonborn heroes would use the power of their voice to defeat the enemies of Skyrim. Wulfharth was Dragonborn, Talos of Atmara as well. Hronger, calm yourself. What does any of this Nord nonsense have to do with our friend here? Capable as he may be, I don't see any signs of him, her being this, what, Dragonborn. Proventus faced the Hronger's excitement with skepticism. Nord nonsense? You puffed up ignorant. These are our sacred traditions that go back to the founding of the First Empire. Hronger shook at Proventus aggressively. Hronger, don't be so hard on Avenixai. The Jarl had to stop the two from arguing. It seemed the court of Whiterun can't have enough discord, even with the ebony blade taken away from here. I meant no disrespect, of course. It's just that I don't understand the situation. What's with that dragon showing up, and what do these Greybeards want with him? Proventus asked. That's not our business. The Greybeards have called, and answering them is a tremendous honor and an obligatory duty. Jarl Balgruuf concluded the talk about here. As an agent for the Imperials, Proventus would always try to understand Jarl Balgruuf's plans and report them to the Empire. With the appearance of the dragon, the whole political situation was bound to be disturbed. Even a small pawn like Proventus could figure out the value that the Empire will put on the Dragonborn. Still, something was exceedingly bothering everyone. John was still keeping a silent protocol and refusing to take the helm off. Also, the people of Winterhold seemed to have been the only outsiders present in the court for some reason. Still, luck was smiling on John today as Irileth came running into the court. Jarl Balgruuf, my lord, we have a situation, she said. What's it, woman? Don't run around when you're injured. Balgruuf jumped off his seat when Irileth walked in. She was supposed to be present, but she was injured in the fight and had to rest in the barracks, but something must have happened. The clan heads, the Imperial emissary, the Stormcloak, everyone is at our door seeking audience. Even that clown Nazim, she said. Jarl Balgruuf wanted to curse out loud, but he controlled himself. Of course, with the presence of the Dragonborn and away from the commoners, all the big forces will flock like birds of prey, and he can't hold them out much longer. This was a bit out of his hand, but thankfully, the Dragonborn seemed as stubborn as any Nord and kept his face hidden under the helm. Jarl Balgruuf didn't want to deal with all those troublesome people, but this was out of his hands. He can only allow them in, show them in, and keep Nassim out for all what's it's worth. He said, "Yes, my lord." Irileth wasn't comfortable with the situation either, but they were out of options. Currently, there is a Dragonborn with an unknown identity, and everyone is just going mad about him. Who knows what this man is capable of? Will he be swayed by politicians, or will he be used to do the dirty work of the others? Such answers were indeed putting a lot of pressure on Jarl Balgruuf, but the situation at hand was terribly unstable, and he has to make sure nothing goes wrong. All he knows is that the Dragonborn was nothing but a mercenary who worked for Fur. The Jarl sank in deep thoughts instantly. Wait, could it be? Associating that man's name with anything is exceedingly uncomfortable, but if John Dare had prior knowledge that this man is a Dragonborn, and he sent him here in this time on purpose, this explains a lot. More to that, the people of Winterhold were present in the court and during the fight. This is no coincidence. Jarl Balgruuf looked towards the doors of his hall as the men flowed, causing a lot of noise, all wishing to speak with the Dragonborn and get to know him. Jarl Balgruuf paid them no heed and kept looking towards the doors of his hall with patience, making a small bet with fate. Could it be? He thought of the possibility that soon started to turn into a reality in the most bizarre of scenes. The sudden mess, the unexpected ruckus, and most importantly, the cool entrance. The man who can send the most powerful figures in Skyrim early to bed. He was walking and stealing all the spotlight off the Dragonborn that was supposed to be the savior of the day. Not only was he coming in, but his sight made the guards run from his way. Maybe due to the Minotaur that was following him, but that didn't matter. It is still him. But still there is more. It can't be him if he didn't say something exceedingly cool. That's a lot of ugly faces gathered in one place. Let the most handsome young man in the world grace you with his presence, he said. The Jarl stood off his seat, not noticing the Dragonborn who was covering his face from the punchline that went completely off script. "It's really him," the Jarl said. While in fact that was Mirren on the transformation potion, John has successfully made sure that both his identity and that of the Dragonborn remain separate until he decides otherwise. Yet of course, the fun part, politics, is finally about to start. I hope you're all staying home, quarantined, reading novels, and playing games, or even studying. Let's take this chance to pray for the world to be a better and loving place where everyone share toilet paper and hygiene products with love and reason. Also, no wars and other shit, but we've to be realistic while praying. May God bless you all. P4Thierry0N Pat times Rayon. com/Eldokmizi. Remove times. YouTube. com/channel/UCR. 7RT 7 NWOJRA 0S7 CJFRJDW. Discord. GG/GKCKVA7. Instagram at Don_Dokmisi. Twitter at Eldokmizi22. Chapter 517. The Man, the Myth, the Fucking Legend. Thanks for our newest patron, James French. A few comprehended the sudden appearance of John Dare and took a while to realize the situation that was absurdly unfolding into all the wrong directions. John Dare, safe to say the most infamous person in Skyrim right after Ulfric Stormcloak, is gracing them with his terrible and unwanted presence. 2 years ago, this young man was the center of all attention, from the houses of politics to the taverns to the gatherings of mages and scholars, but most importantly in the imperial court. John Dare the Man, the Myth, and the Fucking Legend. John Dare the Man started his career in the arena of Skyrim as the junior champion of the High Kings Tournament for year for E196. Following his winning, he took his reward and became someone important in Winterhold, rebuilding the hold from dust. None could have known that the poorest hold in Skyrim would dig out unimaginable riches in the hands of John Dare. This caused many to be jealous, yet alas, John was already too powerful to contain. This and that happened, and later John Dare was found out to be the cursed child of Clan Firemane, a child that was judged to be killed before he was even born, a child whose parents have gone through unimaginable lengths to fake his death for 18 years. Now that he was found alive, the enemies of his clan went out seeking his head to the point where they joined hands with the Thalmor and marched to Neo-Sarthal, the city that John Dare reconstructed after 400 years of its destruction. The result was the utter defeat of the allied clans and the death of 10 Thalmor arch-wizards who were leading it. A massive uproar was bound to hit Skyrim because of that, but John chose to avoid it and agreed with High King Torg to be banished from the realm for as long as King Torg lives. He then disappeared for 2 years. John Dare the myth was much more fearsome than the ones that are known. He is the laborer of Azura, the champion of both Azura and Bothia, and the nephew of Sheogorath. These titles were all associated with a mercenary that wears a dragon priest mask and calls himself Krylin. Little did anyone know that Krylin means dare in the Dovizil. John Dare the legend turned out to be a Dragonborn, but the man himself argues that his legend is his handsomeness and bedroom prowess. The thing is, many would agree. John Dare, or the one pretending to be John Dare, walked inside the hall of Jarl Balgruuf smiling and acting high and mighty. This seemed like a John Dare in a good mood, unlike the John Dare who starts spouting Thursdayum whenever someone angers him. Jarl Balgruuf, I salute you. Thane John Hild. We are not seeing things, are we? Jarl Balgruuf had to verify his sanity to prepare himself for whatever absurdity that may come by out of literal nowhere. Indeed, it is I, John Hild Firemane. You can call me John, whispering to Jax. I mean, what kind of a stupid name is John Hild anyway? The pretender said as he barged in with the best impression of John he could muster. John, the real John, covered his face regretting that he let Mirren play the role. He could have just asked Wulfr, but sadly, Wulfr's disappearance would cause questions. Huh, this is grand. Thane John Hild himself, after 2 years, shows up in my hall. Please be my guest for the day. Jarl Balgruuf stood up greeting John. Thank you, it is my honor. Mirren and John's appearance walked in with Jax following him. Beside the 3 meters tall Jax was the 12-year-old Beth, who was wearing a long robe covering herself completely. Mirren turned to Alina and the rest of Winterhold team, then acted as if he was greeting the family, with Alina glaring death at him. He painfully acted according to her glares and joined the Jarl later on. Meanwhile, there was an uproar with John's appearance. Those who brought gifts to the Dragonborn to sway him to their friendship felt threatened by the appearance of John. This walking bank of a man can't just appear at the same time a Dragonborn appears. There is no way it is a coincidence. Utterly impossible. Regardless of John's motive, those politicians had one mutual thought in mind, and that is to never let John Dare be friendly with the Dragonborn. Both the Stormcloak and the Imperial agents hidden within the crowd of the flocking visitors would spare anything to never let this happen. If there is a Dragonborn, then this is the only equalizer to the freak of nature that is John Dare. Those people started polishing their honeyed words and dusting off their treasured coffers to try anything they can to sway the Dragonborn, but who would have thought that the next words of Jarl Balgruuf would make them feel like puking blood? Join us, Thane John Hild. I have already met your protege here. Protege? Just why was the Jarl saying that to John Dare while pointing at the Dragonborn? This is an absolutely uncomfortable thing to hear, and they wanted to unhear it if they could, but it didn't feel possible anymore. What is the relationship between John Dare and the Dragonborn? They all almost felt like their heads were burning from the thought. Indeed, I was supposed to meet him at Helgen, but as I crossed the Pale Pass 2 days ago, I saw a great pillar of smoke rising to the sky. Following its source, I saw Helgen being eaten by a terrible flame, the pretender regretfully said. It was already too late. The Jarl continued in a heavy tone. It was a tragedy. I tried to help any way I could, but there was too much death. It is regrettable indeed. May those who passed away with bravery in their hearts be united in Sovngarde. Amen. The voices of 2 great men dominated the hall as they had their conversation. The pretender has imitated John's behavior to almost perfection and said all he would say. Speaking of dragons, I sent my friend here to recover something for me that is related to a prophecy of dragons, but what are those rumors I heard on the streets? The pretender asked. Oh, whatever you have heard, it must be great. The Dragonborn walks among us. The Jarl replied. Truly. The pretender looked at the Dragonborn, acting as if shocked, then continued. Congratulations, my friend. I knew there was something special about you. Thank you. The Dragonborn replied to the pretender. All the others who were watching tried to get a hint from the conversation, but the nature of their relationship was still unclear. How do you know one another? The Jarl asked. We've met in Morrowind and traveled for some time. I hired him to do a lot of excavations for me while I was doing some extensive research here and there. The pretender said. Oh, so you're his employer? One of the attendants asked. Sponsor is the right term. The pretender replied. A sponsor and a protege. That's the image that was delivered on purpose. A relationship of mutual benefit and tact business. It was something a Real John Dare would do. Yet this is better than the worst cases those people prepared themselves for. If the Empire or the powerful secret societies put their weight on it, they can turn the Dragonborn against John Dare with enough leverage. John Dare is wealthy for sure, but even his wealth has its limits. It was true. John didn't want himself to be pressured in any case. The Dragonborn is bound to be supported by many forces, and as his current official sponsor, he holds too much power that would upset his business rival and political enemies. The Dragonborns across history were people with unfathomable power, and that's the trump card he can imagine others would want to use against him. Aside from protecting his true identity as the Dragonborn, John was making a big juicy bait to see who his enemies are at the moment. With the Thalmor unable to act freely in this war situation, they would surely unleash their pawns to hinder his growth. This is also true for the Empire that keeps a fragile peace with him, and the dragons who are 100% guaranteed to not act like the mindless beasts they were in the game. John, the real John, smiled to himself as he felt a shit storm heading his direction. After all, he's the Dragonborn who is upon the wheel would turn. All are bound to sway with his actions, so he must be in control all the time and plan 10 steps ahead of anyone. His targets weren't just those big storm blowers, but also the ones who sail the hidden currents. The 4 factions of Skyrim that he intends to control as soon as possible. The College of Winterhold, the Companions of Whiterun, the Thieves' Guild of Riften, and the Dark Brotherhood of Falkreath. Away from John's inner thoughts, the scene continued as the Pretender held a firm conversation with Jarl Balgruuf while the Dragonborn handled the others who came to make connections with him. It was so laughable to think that those people are not even aware of what is happening and thinking of the short-term gains they can achieve by befriending the Dragonborn. Balance is the true instrument of wealth even in the times of war, especially in the times of war. The Imperials and the Stormcloaks were on a stalemate for too long until General Tullius was assigned lately. He managed to trap Ulfric's Stormcloak in a short time of constant confrontations and almost brought the war to its end, but Alduin the World Eater ruined his plans to keep the war on. Now that Ulfric survived, he is bound to be very cautious and lead the war from a safe distance, which means the stalemate is back between 2 equal and competitive forces. The true problem here is with the neutral faction, which is rather very large. If this faction ends up joining a side, then the war would be over, but the cost would be too great. Too many will die. The heads of the neutral faction are Jarl Balgruuf the Greater of Whiterun, Jarl Idgrod Ravencrone of Jalmarch, and most certainly John Dare of Winterhold, the wealthiest man in Skyrim. With 3 of the 9 holds away from the war and the other 6 split against each other, this meant that there is a large possibility in which the neutral faction can be considered stronger than the other 2 factions. More to that, each faction has an iconic hero who are John Dare, Ulfric Stormcloak, and General Tullius respectively. On this rate, the Dragonborn is a guaranteed candidate to break that balance. Some saw this as fate, while others were terrified of the unknown possibilities. John used that to gather invaluable intel on those who were trying to end the war and those who were trying to prolong it for their agendas. Plans upon plans with ideas upon ideas. John perfected many scenarios that can prove useful in the future after meeting those politicians, merchants, and emissaries. They soon realized that the one they were speaking to is an up-to-date politician who understands all the political maneuvers and the hidden currents of the market, making them more curious than before about the face under the horned helm. John also made sure to feed those people all the false informations he wanted them to know, from an estimation of his fighting power as the Dragonborn to his personal feelings regarding the war and the pain it caused, leaving them with an alert that the dragons are far from resting after this first appearance, and clarifying that the dragon that attacked Helgen is not the same dragon that attacked Whiterun. To end this meeting before it takes longer, John signaled for Mirren so that he moves to the last phase of his act. "My friend, I was looking for you." The pretender called for the Dragonborn, taking him away from the others politely and speaking a bit loud so it all becomes clear. "What is it?" "The thing I sent you to recover, remember it? The stone tablet, right?" "Oh, it's with the Jarl's court wizard. Don't worry, they promised to give it back." The Dragonborn said, "That's right, my friend. I will send for Farengar to bring it right away." Jarl Balgruuf spoke, "Guard, go tell Farengar to bring the stone tablet here." "Yes, my lord." The Jarl sent one of his guardsmen to Farengar. Jax accompanied him. "The tablet must be quite heavy." The pretender spoke to the Minotaur. "Yes, boss." The towering Minotaur, that was standing silently in the background, moved after the guard, who was barely half his height. The Jarl watched the Minotaur and smiled awkwardly at John. "Quite the beast. That's my coachman and bodyguard." The pretender said, "Oh, I see, impressive." "There is only one guy who would do that anyway." The Jarl didn't overthink it for the sake of his peace of mind. A minute later, Jax came, followed by the guard and court wizard Farengar. "My Jarl, I am so very sorry." Farengar spoke amidst all the attention of the room. "What happened? Speak quickly." Jarl Balgruuf felt like something bad was going to happen. "The Dragonstone, my lord, it was stolen." Farengar spoke. With the face of Jarl Balgruuf turning cold, all the other people attending the scene felt like something important was happening. That level-headed Jarl is rare to be seen in a fit of anger. He walked closer to Farengar. "How did that happen? I remember telling you that we were only borrowing the tablet. It should have been locked in safety." "Who took it?" the Jarl asked. The truth is, when we arrived from the dragon's hunt, I ran to my papers to record the fight. I didn't know it was missing until the guard and that interesting specimen, Minotaur gentleman, came asking for it. Farengar said. The Jarl showed an upset face, but he turned to John and spoke apologetically. "My friend, there seems to have been a rather unfortunate event. If the tablet was stolen, there is no way it has gone outside the hold by now. I'll notify all the guards on the traveling routes to look out for it." Jarl Balgruuf said. "That's really unfortunate." The pretender said, not knowing how to react, as this situation was a bit off script. Could it be that Sir Farengar's associate was the one who took the tablet? At this moment, the Dragonborn suggested in the form of a question. It can't be." Flustered, Farengar wanted to defend his associate's reputation, but it seemed that John's words hit the nail on its head. Even the Jarl agreed with him. "Damn right. By the beard of Ismir, that woman was reluctant to let go of the stone." "Farengar, where is she?" the Jarl asked. "I don't know, my lord. She wasn't here once we returned, damnation." Farengar seemed frustrated for his own reasons. "What are you waiting for then? Disclose her identity at once," the Jarl demanded. "But With the Jarl demanding, Farengar was having a hard time whether to answer or not. With the glares of many pressuring him, he finally spoke. "I don't know her, but she seemed like someone who was very knowledgeable about dragons. She said things that piqued my interest regarding my dragon research, and I couldn't resist listening to what she had to say." Farengar. At that moment, Irileth almost jumped at Farengar. "You let a stranger into the Jarl's court without verifying their identity. What would you have me do? The dragon research is of utmost importance." Farengar and Irileth were about to argue, but Jarl Balgruuf stopped them. "Enough with you two. You want to shame me in front of my guests? Off with you." He dismissed them, but he was still embarrassed about losing the Dragonstone and intended to recover it in any way possible. "I can help with that," At that time, the Dragonborn, aka the real John Dare, spoke up. You can? I do. Sir John has taught me how to put a magic imprint on everything I fear to lose. I happen to have put one on the Dragonstone. With the Dragonborn saying so, this caused the face of the Jarl to loosen up. Tell us where it is then. I'll send the guards after it right away. No need. I can summon it here if Sir John supports me with his magic, said the Dragonborn, looking at the confused pretender. With a slight signal from John's eyes, Mirren understood and stretched his hand forward. All right, I will assist you. Mirren started focusing on an act of magic to impress the others while John was letting his senses spread across the space in an overwhelming manner. Alina was watching from a distance as well as Beth, and the two saw a glimpse of the incredible rush of mental power. As the two were the best diviners on John's side, they were the ones capable enough to see through his mystic magic. Heh, this husband of mine, Alina smiled wryly. Master is incredible. Beth held her breath. At that time, John was looking through the space for a specific individual. Someone he could tell that she would act rashly and steal the Dragonstone for sure. One of the last survivors of the Blades, Delphine. Delphine is the so-called associate that wanted to use the enthusiastic mage, Farengar's secret fire, to get her hands on the Dragonstone, the stone tablet that is fabled to mark down all the dragon's burial mounds. This stone tablet was not just a map, but as John understood, it is an artifact with a deep hidden power inside of it. If he wanted a map, then he already has all the burial sites mapped down even before he leaves Rift Inn for the first time. However, this stone was a different thing altogether, something the game hasn't mentioned at all. With him looking towards the southeast, John could search every caravan traveling across that direction of Whiterun Hold, and soon he found the mark he left on the Dragonstone near the woods of Riverwood. This was almost the limit of his detection, but he was still able to stretch it longer by fueling it with magicka. There, he could spot a rider traveling alone in a riding hood while making sure she is not traced by even beasts or birds. On her back, she was carrying something quite large and heavy for her size as a Breton. John never liked that woman ever since he first played the game, and so did all the players. Maybe that was the only thing everyone agreed on in the game. Let's see the look on your face now. John smiled slyly as he started casting a spell. Away from Whiterun City to the south, Delphine was riding on a horse and taking a secret route through the woods towards Riverwood where her hideout is. She was always overcautious and would look behind her shoulder every minute to make sure that she isn't trailed. If she ever found herself in such a situation, she would drive her pursuers towards a number of prepared traps she had installed around this area since she planned to nest here. John was watching from above as he started to create a manifestation of his consciousness in this place. With it, he would be able to cast spells directly in that area. In the sky above Delphine, there was an incorporeal form of John Dare, the real one, taking form like a ghost. This was not just a simple spell that John would cast with one hand and be done with it. This was the legendary master-level mysticism spell, Astral Projection. This projection is not just some ghost of John appearing somewhere, but rather John himself with all his powers and skills. Feeling the malice of John being directed towards her, Delphine looked up at the sky to meet eyes with a ghost like John. This was not a situation she is even prepared for. Without thinking, she ran. Wise call, but you shouldn't have stolen from me, John said as he cast telekinesis on the stone tablet tied to her back. Delphine felt the unfathomable force pulling her back off the horse and even lifting her in the air. This was worse than what she imagined. Let go! She took out a small flask from her pocket and threw it on the ground, causing a sudden cloud of blue mist to manifest. Corrupted magicka? In a second, John almost lost control over his spell, but he soon regained it with a little bit of focus. Pulling the stone in one go, John found out that Delphine was no longer tied to the stone and disappeared through the mist towards the south. He could spot her running and hiding amidst the trees. How amusing! John's eyes met with hers. He showed a hint of satisfaction, while she showed unrest and fear. Knowing that she is exposed no matter where she went, Delphine finally showed herself. "You! Return that?" she called. John became annoyed by the fact that she bluntly just told him to hand his dragonstone over after she stole it. Preposterous fool. Why would I? He spoke with all his haughtiness. You don't understand. It is important. The fate of the world, the fate of Skyrim, and this war, it may all depend on that stone, she said. John silently looked at her with an unamused face. I know, he said and continued. That's why I won't let the likes of you interfere with such a matter. Begone! John intended to cast a fireball strong enough to blast Delphine to shreds, but she intercepted his attack and used 3 flasks of the corrupted magica bombs to interfere with his spell before running away. Corrupted magica is a serious substance similar to Daedric magic, but is considered a taboo and a forbidden item that can only be found in the black market. Delphine is dangerous, and in John's book, she must be dealt with. TSK. This will be trouble. I can't go further than this, so I better send someone after her, else she will keep getting in my way. John thought as he started transferring the Dragonstone back with his consciousness to Dragon's Reach. Once he opened his eyes, he could see the wooden interior of the palace around him and his face being worn by Mirren, who was pretending to be John. John Dare brought the stone back. With the Dragonstone's appearance, the pretender made sure to take all the credit for returning it. So corny, Alina whispered with a less amused face than those Nords who started complimenting the outstanding skill of Thane John Dare. Hey, I think John has made some good friends while he was away. Don't you think so too? The one who spoke her mind just now was Jellinar, who was smiling widely. Alina didn't seem to agree with her, but she was somewhat okay Mirren, who was a dude. However, someone spoke out of their turn and ruined everything for John in a swift instant. Thank goodness they are swindling people together. No longer with that scary gay business they were on about. Isha said quietly, as her worries about the two were just a bad joke that kept going for some while. Say what? While in fact, that was no joke for a certain Alina. Back to the present. You almost murdered half of the people who were behind us, John said. And you can't blame a wife for being too careful, Alina said as she was helping John dress in his official garments. Here you go, hubby. To think I was living 2 years without those caring hands of my beautiful wifey. My soul has grown tired without you, John said as he caressed the cheeks of his wife. My. Alina smiled faintly and continued. Says the man who was drinking coconut milk on the white beaches of Somerset. John went pale all of a sudden. You didn't? Oh, I did see everything, so cut the bullshit, Firemane. There is a Jarl waiting for you, and we girls need the room to prepare. Get out. John was pushed outside the room, which was interesting as the Jarl was also experiencing a similar situation. The 2 respected gentlemen fixed their appearance and acted in control before heading to the main hall almost at the same time. It was almost time to appoint the new Thane of Whiterun. Chapter 518, Explaining the Politics. This chapter was added to clarify many political points of view. I'll add a note to its end with a fair argument I read on Reddit. At the great porch on the back of Dragon's Reach Palace, there was a shed installed in the spot where the nice breeze of summer blows moderately. It was an outstanding place to have a table, chairs, and some food, then invite the guests to dine or drink. Jarl Balgruuf made sure that this place is used for that purpose, as its massive size and open nature can't be used for anything else. Is the view to your liking, Lady Alina? Jarl Balgruuf asked. It is indeed fascinating. Thank you, my lord. Alina replied in a cheerful manner. Many people learned that an upset Alina is a very scary being from the events of yesterday. After Isha's slip of tongue, revealing the little joke that was between John and Mirren, Alina seemed to have not taken it well at all. Truthfully, no one understood why Alina was so royally pissed at the Dragonborn and John Dare all of a sudden, but as the two kept appeasing her, it was understood that they must have done something wrong. No one dared to ask, especially with the overflowing rage of Alina. That girl has some real anger issues. Meanwhile, John was feeding Nefertiti, who was snuggling on his arm. Not just the four of them who were present, but also everyone that knows of John Dare's little secret being the Dragonborn. From Whiterun, it is only Jarl Balgruuf and Irileth as from Winterhold. It was basically the whole gang. I still don't understand why you are taking it this far with secrets, Thane John Hild. Irileth, the Jarl's housecarl, asked John directly, with an upset face. You don't like secrets, housecarl? John replied without taking his eyes off his playful cat. Frankly speaking, we do not understand why you had to twist a lie within a lie. The Jarl asked. John smiled and nodded. You are right. Allow me to express my deepest apologies regarding yesterday. But as you know of trickery and maneuvers, my lord, you have to trick those who you are close to in order to trick the rest. John said, and the rest started remembering the situation that happened last night. Yesterday, John and Mirren were directed by Alina's full anger, which was on a party crasher level. The Jarl dismissed most of the guests immediately to deal with the ticking disaster that is Alina. In a close range, the weak individuals who are directed to her anger may start losing consciousness. No one wanted that woman angry at all costs, so they went away without complaining. Once someone reaches a certain level, some things become meaningless besides power, and the law of might makes right is effective right away. Alina is on that caliber. John and Mirren needed to appease her, so it was necessary to cancel their transformation. John didn't want to ruin the plan, so he asked the Jarl to take them to a quiet place where, as he stated, where the walls don't have ears. This meant that the Jarl, and only his most trusted aides, must be witnesses to what comes, and no one else. The Jarl chose Irileth and Farengar to accompany him, and to their absolute shock, John Dare wasn't John Dare, but rather an elf, and the Dragonborn was the real John Dare. How John explained it later took him a few brain cells to make everyone who was raging around just chill. It was safe to say that Irileth was the hardest to convince, while Farengar was the best object of proof, yet he kept asking far too many questions. Alina, on the other hand, understood the situation before John explains it now that she got a minute to calm down. With the messy situation out of the way, John made it clear that his identity as the Dragonborn can't be exposed to the other members of Whiterun Court, at least not now anyway. Back to the present. The Jarl was slowly recovering from yesterday's headache, but still asked for John's real reasoning to disguise his identity. The question which John answered with a sly smile, but the Jarl knew there was more. John then added some of his own reasoning. Winterhold, Whiterun, and Mordhau are the three cities that will decide the civil war. Mordhau is mostly on the Imperial side. Winterhold has a lot of Stormcloak supporters and Talos worshippers, which leaves Whiterun as the ninth hold with no real intention to participate in this madness that is to come. Sadly, Whiterun Hold is the heart of Skyrim, and many battles have already happened between the Imperial Legion and the Stormcloaks, but still, you managed to keep it neutral, my lord. John said, Indeed, it took us a lot of effort, but on the cost of our economy. The Jarl replied, And if only you are aware of how many attempts there were on the Jarl's life. Irileth added, I wouldn't try to imagine how difficult your situation is, but what I can imagine is how the situation will shift if something happens to Jarl Balgruuf. Who is the successor of Whiterun at the moment? John asked. Hronger, my brother, Jarl Balgruuf replied. Too hot-headed, that one. John said. You have no idea, the Jarl said with a tired face. He may argue with my steward most of the time, but the two almost agree on everything that is imperial. You also have the Greymane and the Battleborn clans in the city. The two have different allegiances, but still hold well together after the wedding of John and Alfina. John added, Indeed. The Jarl thought for a while, then smiled at John. If I remember correctly, you made sure that the marriage happens no matter the cost. But still, I don't see how any of that related to your secret identity as the Dragonborn. Jarl Balgruuf, do you think it is wise for me to reveal it? John asked. It would bring you a whole lot of benefits. All the Nords will look up to you. You will be welcomed everywhere, The Thalmor will be forced not to chase you anymore. Your standing with the Empire will improve. And the two men looked at each other, speaking in a language only the two of them could understand. So, none of this will serve you any benefit, the Jarl concluded. No, I don't need any of that. John shook his shoulder with a smile. True. The Jarl fell into silence before looking at John once again. And your reputation as John Dare will harm your identity as the Dragonborn, and the other way around too. That's right. It will also make the situation too difficult to beat regarding the war. John nodded once again. The two remained silent for a few seconds until Alina broke that silence. So your argument here is that if the Empire found out that John Dare is the Dragonborn, they will be threatened? Is it because of the Covenant of Akatosh? She asked. That's a very dangerous thought, Lady Alina. Jarl Balgruuf almost went pale. But it is what John fears the most right now. The one who confirmed that dangerous fact was Miranda. This whole situation is now more serious than what it seemed. The Covenant of Akatosh, or what was known as the Covenant of Saint Alessia, was the whole basis on which the First, Second, and Third Empires were established upon. The divine right of the Dragonborn Emperor. Saint Alessia is a Dragonborn and the founder of the First Empire. Reman Cyrodiil is a Dragonborn and the founder of the Second Empire. Tiber Septim is a Dragonborn and the founder of the Third Empire. Compared to the weak and failing Mede dynasty founded by Titus Mede I, the last Dragonborn who roams the land of Skyrim is a very suitable candidate to replace that dying dynasty. Back in the First Era, when Saint Alessia led the slave rebellion and won Cyrodiil, she had to legitimize her throne by a divine right. So she made a pact with the imperial chief deity, Akatosh. That pact was that as long as Alessia and her Dragonborn descendants sat on the ruby throne, where the Amulet of Kings, and light the dragon's fire in the Temple of the One, Akatosh will ward Tamriel from the tyranny of the Daedric Lords of Oblivion and their hordes of Daedra. This pact was a blessing to the whole Tamriel, and Alessia was named a saint for it. At the end of the Third Era, that pact was broken by the mythic Dawn cult who worshipped the Daedric Lord Mehrunes Dagon and killed the Septim Emperor, thus leaving Tamriel without protection. For that, the last Emperor Martin Septim sacrificed himself to make the Covenant one more time, and this time for good, without the need of a Dragonborn Emperor to maintain it. Now, after 200 years, a Dragonborn appears while the Empire is weakened and cracking. Wouldn't the Mede dynasty feel threatened with the existence of that Dragonborn? Wouldn't the political opposers of the Mede dynasty gather around the Dragonborn as the new symbol of the dragon blood right? This idea is way more violent than the Civil War of Skyrim, but very likely to cause a lot of drama that no one wants at the moment. There is even more. The identity of John Dare is much more dangerous than just a simple Dragonborn. He is the young dragon of Winterhold, the powerhouse of the North, the richest man in Skyrim, the husband of the leader of the Cult of Kine, the taboo child destined with 3 Elder Scrolls, the grand champion of the arena, the second, if not technically the first on the Thalmor's most wanted list, but the most important point is that he is the man who revived Winterhold from dust. Wouldn't this fearsome man fit to be the one true emperor of Tamriel? A natural-born ruler, a real warlord, a revolutionary merchant, a terrifying warrior, a genius mage. No one here was a fool to not understand all that in one go. I don't know, fam, but this whole emperor business with the dragon debacle is too much for one guy. I mean, Nefertiti is taking most of my time as it is. John shared his thoughts on the matter. It is just that his personality is too much, Alina frustratingly said. It would be a nightmare just imagining John as emperor. Winterhold has risen from the population of a mere 5,000 to almost 50,000 and has 2 major cities, a mining town, a new port town, many trade routes, and lots of independent villages popping out in the snow as if it is nothing. Even with all that rising population, there is still a huge lack of workers, and John's final plans for the hold are far from over. Imagine that guy going full sicko mode on an empire. He even made it look like an RTS game in the system interface he keeps under his house. Thankfully, Only Alina and the augur are aware of that fact. So, you're trying to avoid a fight with the imperial throne? The Jarl asked. Duh. And if that is not a good enough reason, then imagine the dragons knowing where the guy who kills them lives and gang up on his town. I mean, Winterhold can handle a dragon or two, but it is not equipped for a dragon gangbang, believe me. John, what's a gangbang? Jarl Balgruuf. Everyone else. It is something if you find out, you'll be surnamed Dare. John, I'll pass. Jarl Balgruuf. Then how will you deal with this mess? Irileth cut to the chase. With the help of a few of my trusted friends and allies like Jarl Balgruuf and yourself, Irileth. I hope our friendship proves most fruitful and shines like the well-tempered metal. John replied like a crafty politician. And we will put my whole trust in you, my friend. The Jarl didn't want to question John more than this, but soon a question crossed his mind. A while ago, you mentioned a number of dragons. How much are we talking about here? This was a very sensitive question that made everyone stare at John while holding their breath. As far as everyone is concerned, there are 2 dragons thus far. One killed by the Dragonborn, and the other one that attacked Helgen. John himself wasn't sure how many dragons are out there in the wild. One thing can answer that, and it is the Dragonstone. To think that idiot woman Delphine wanted a hoard for herself. John retrieved the Dragonstone and kept it hanging midair by telekinesis in front of everyone and was about to give a small lecture before being interrupted by the arrival of more people from the court of Whiterun. The Jarl's brother Hronger, the Jarl's children Frother, Nelker, and Dagny, the Jarl's wife Rosette, the steward Proventus, and the court wizard Farengar. Oh, the Dragonstone! Farengar saw the Dragonstone hanging midair and almost ran to hug it, but John retrieved it instantly. For shore's sake. The Jarl sighed. Thane Johnhild, Lady Alina, it is absolutely nice to see you here. I brought the kids. Lady Rosette spoke as soon as she saw John and the others. Feeling a sudden strike of goosebumps, John instantly tapped to Alina. Lady Rosette, it is fancy seeing you as well. Look at those cute kids. Alina perfectly handled the lady talk and looked at John. It is nice to see you again, my lady, John said as he acted with the utmost respect to the lady of the palace. Nord noblewomen always had that degree of respect between the men, and Lady Rosette was one of the few figures who had a lot of power in Whiterun despite the fact that she was never introduced in the game. She was a good-looking woman and all, but John can't handle talkative ladies, thus he just left it to Alina and sat beside the Jarl drinking mead together. Father, where is that dragon man? Dagny, the Jarl's youngest daughter, asked. Oh, he left, my dear. The Jarl replied gently. What? But I want to see him now. She started stomping on the ground and throwing a tantrum. Seeing the reactions of the Jarl's children, John had a bad feeling about them. From the game, those 3 were a bunch of spoiled brats that always annoyed the player with their comments, but the second child, Nelker, was some sort of a dark child. Thanks to John stealing the ebony blade 2 years ago, that child seems to have survived the dire fate of being enthralled by the Daedric Prince Mephala, the Lady of Whispers. Actually, the whole palace was affected by the cursed blade, but Nelker was the one who Mephala roamed the palace through making mischief and sowing discord. Still, despite the blade being taken away, the boy seemed a bit distancing himself from the group. John could tell as he knew that Nelker isn't the son of Lady Rosette, but apparently from one of the Jarl's affairs. Still, it was better to take the blade away and spare the boy from falling to its influence, else there would be no healing for those who were kissed by Mephala. Ignoring the chattering ladies, the parent that was trying to talk his daughter out of her stubborn phase, and the other ruckus that kept happening, John found himself only drinking alone. So, that's how getting invited to a barbecue feels like, John thought to himself. It was surely a situation where he wanted to bail out from, but sadly, it was not possible, so he could just keep petting Nefertiti like a good homin. After a while, he noticed that Nelker started to talk to Beth, which was somehow strange to see Beth interested in anything. They are both of the same age, so it is nice to see Beth talking to someone. John had to remind himself to keep taking care of that child, as she has no one except him after all. Thane John, it seems that we interrupted you when you were about to say something important, Lady Rosette said as she noticed John drinking by himself. John was about to reply, but it seemed that Jarl Balgruuf was troubled by the question seeing his children around, and he can't just keep talking about dangerous things around those troublesome bunch. John knew exactly what to say in that situation. You know, my lady, this castle has a very important historical value. This great porch was actually constructed to trap a dragon. Wow! Everyone reacted. Indeed, perhaps you have heard of the tale of Olaf and the dragon. John said. Yes, we heard stories of that. Pronger said. According to the tale, Jarl Olaf One-Eyed was a terrible man, but he trapped Numinex the dragon by those shackles at the ceiling of the porch. John pointed up as he said. There were indeed some gigantic shackles and a large wooden trap fixed on the ceiling, but as far as the Jarls were concerned, this story is just a legend, and the dragon trap is a mere rusty artifact. On the other hand, all the children around were interested to see the dragon trap. Pronger, why don't you show the kids that trap? Don't do something I wouldn't do, all right? Lady Rosette was bright enough to take John's hint. All right, sister-in-law. Pronger to his nephews and niece to show them the dragon trap. John returned to his explanation right after it. Regarding the question of how many dragons we are to expect, I hope you will be open-minded about what I discovered during the past 2 years of research. John said, and took out the dragonstone once again. This dragonstone says that in these locations lies the fallen lords of the dragon cults, which are the dragons, and they are numbered to be 22, so we are roughly talking about that number. Kind divines. Oh dear, for just a starter. John added, 22 dragons marked on the map was rather a scary thing. Those who were present felt the true threat of the situation. But Thane John, you just said those locations are where the dragons are buried, right? They are dead. Farengar noted something that made the others look at him with hope. I am sorry to break it to you, Farengar, but the Dragonborn walks among us for a reason. These dragons are being resurrected, not coming out from hiding, not all of them at least. John wasn't going easy on them at all. Please, elaborate further, the Jarl asked. As we know, only our friendly neighborhood Dragonborn can kill dragons and steal their souls. Dragons are eternal, so they don't actually die by normal means. Death to them is just a slumber. Those 22 dragons are slumbering at the moment, waiting for Alduin, the World Eater himself, to resurrect them. By the way, Mermolner, the one we faced yesterday, was a wild dragon who survived by himself, meaning he is not one of the 22 dragons we need to kill, and there are many like him. Wait. Hold on. John, stop. They were taking this worse than he imagined, but it seemed that he needed to emphasize on some terms like the 22 dragon lords aren't out yet, and there are more dragons out there in hiding and returning to, and most certainly Alduin the World Eater. It took a while, but John repeated himself happily. In the end, John came to regret it, as those who were not used to him either believed him and became depressed or didn't believe him and called him mad, but in the end believed him after he reminded them of yesterday's dragon and became depressed anyway. So, what's the solution? The Jarl asked. Not much. We keep watching out for dragons and contact our friend the Dragonborn to come if we find any. He will deal with them with the help we can give him. We just have to make sure he kills the dragon, and that's one for the good guys. Once Whitron and Winterhold are in total cooperation on the Dragonborn's cause, the other holds will also join in, and we will have a wider network for hunting dragons and rescuing the world. Meanwhile, I will personally lead the investigation of the dragon crisis and figure out more counterplans to share them with the whole of Skyrim. John presented his solutions. He was not just making an official sponsorship to the Dragonborn, but also taking a monopoly on the investigation and sending out the news. It may not sound bad, as John Dare is known to be an excellent mage with a lot of studies regarding dragons. John wanted those people who were present to hear it very well, especially when there are Imperial spies around now. And will the war be affected? Proventus asked. John smiled vividly. I hope this crisis brings the sons of man together and to reunite them brothers and sisters against one enemy. This may be our only chance to achieve world peace. He said. Such empty words were just a big load of bullshit, but who cares, he's right either way. And where is the Dragonborn right now? Lady Rosette asked. Oh, he's busy, the Greybeards called for him. It may take him a month or so to climb the 7,000 steps, so he must prepare. John said. Technically, that was not a lie. And we must prepare as well. Alina said. Indeed. Jarl Balgruuf agreed. Thane Johnhild of Clan Firemane, if you may accept, I want to give you the right to operate in my hold and guide the Dragonborn against any dragon that may threaten this hold. I accept the burden, John replied. The whole gathering stood up as the two most important men were up facing one another. In that case, allow me to name you a Thane of Whiterun. It is the highest title within my power to give. I am sure you are quite familiar with the responsibilities. Jarl Balgruuf said. Thank you, my lord, John replied. I also assign you Lydia to be your housecarl and gift you this weapon as your badge of office. May it serve you well. Jarl Balgruuf signaled for one of his elite guards to step forward. It was none other than the legendary maiden in steel, Lydia herself. John almost wanted to burst out laughing, but barely held himself. Meanwhile, Alina was watching him with warning glares. With Lydia stepping forward and Irileth passing a large ceremonial axe to John in a wooden case, John stepped forward and picked up the axe. I will never disappoint Whiterun, my lord. John said. All right, that is all for now. Jarl Balgruuf dismissed the audience, and John took his leave. He led his group of endgame bosses out of the palace through the city during the sunset, and finally exited the Cloud District. Back to Winterhold? Alina asked. Finally, John was never happier to agree with anyone on anything. He looked back and spoke to Lydia. Lydia, right? He asked. That's right. The Jarl has appointed me to be your housecarl. It's an honor to serve you. She said. Do you remember her, Wolfer? John asked. HM? She's quite familiar. Wolfer said. Indeed. Do you remember me and this guy? John asked her. I do, my Thane. 5 years ago, we met in the High King's tournament. She said. Oh, that's right. The War Maidens team. Wolfer recalled right away. Indeed, John confirmed. You have a good memory regarding women. Husband, Alina stepped in. John always does. Isha added. Quit it, both of you. Hey, Lydia, what does a housecarl do? He asked. As my Thane, I'm sworn to your service. I'll guard you, and all you own, with my life. She replied. That's disturbing, Jelliner commented. Wait, here comes the best part. John said, and turned to Lydia. Lydia, I want to trade something with you. I am sworn to carry your burdens. She replied. Perfect. What's up, guys? It's Don here. Most of this chapter was a bit of me spoiling the political situation, as most of you are not really with great memories. Not blaming you, but what follows is a bit of spoiling about the political standing of a Dragonborn. Chapter 519, Lord, Land, and Family. Wife, is it done? I asked as we stood in front of Bree's home. It is done. Took us quite the resources to make, though. Alina replied. What we were talking about was the project I entrusted her with. When I was in Cyrodiil, I sent many messages to my people and associates around the continent telling the specific instructions or asking for favors and information. My wife had the task of purchasing all the player homes across Skyrim, which were 5 in total, along with other 3 places for the holds that had no player homes. Aside from Falkreath and Dawnstar, we have completed the network, she added. What happened with Falkreath and Dawnstar? I asked. The Jarls are not friendly with us, you know. Jarl Skald the Elder and Jarl Sigir are not your biggest fans. I get it. Dawnstar is actually close by, and Falkreath suffered from the attack on Helgen, so the situation is not that bad at all. We'll figure it out. Now, inside Bree's home, We walked in as a party of 12. It was me, Alina, Joel, Nefertiti, Wolfer, Ela, Miranda, Mirren, Isha, Jax, Beth, and finally Lydia. The house may not be vast enough, but that wasn't the idea here. Bree's home was redecorated by the careful touches of Alina, who transformed the old thing into a nice and cozy place to rest in. Still, the most important thing was that gate-like object which was added in the small room on the ground floor. A portal station. This was the intended purpose of purchasing all the player homes, and that is to make a fast travel network that takes me between the hold the fastest way possible. Lydia, I know it is illegal to teleport and levitate inside the city, but I don't give a damn. Are we clear? John asked Lydia with a dangerous smile. All right. Perfect. This is for the betterment of the world anyway. You will be using it a lot, and also watch out for cliffs, dear. They are so very tempting. I said, warning her about something that may or may not happen. Now, husband, don't scare our new housecarl. Alina interfered after she activated the portal, pushing me away, then looked at Lydia. You report to Jelinek. It seems that my dear wife will activate the policy of keeping all unauthorized females at a safe distance from me. I wasn't thinking of anything anyway. Either way, I was now just facing the portal that will take me back to Winterhold. Truthfully, I have complicated feelings at the moment. It is complicated. Just go ahead, will you? Alina lightly pushed me forwards, and I stepped in the portal trying to think positively. Winterhold, the historical capital of Skyrim, and the home of knowledge and politics that long since sank under the sea of ghosts. Winterhold of the past was a sorry place plagued by hate and skepticism between the common folks and the mages, but one man reformed that waste into a power that can't be looked down upon. Winterhold of today is a massive trading hub that sits upon the coldest parts of the Sea of Ghosts and the capital city of magic in Skyrim. The docks have expanded further and further to rival that of Solitude and Windhelm to the point where it extended between the small islands to the north. The shipbuilders of Winterhold now have a guild of their own separate from the Dare Dragon Company, but still loyal to the House of Dare. The town expanded yet past the old walls, giving birth to newer districts and slums. The building started to take a new form to contain more residents by stacking apartments on each other rather than building independent houses. This was no longer a city, but rather a machine powered by various races and origins. Rather than having the time to be racist against each other, work and money were the aspects of the community in Winterhold. Either with force or reason, advancements took place when people needed it. Businesses took places outside the umbrella of the dominating Dare Dragon Company, and diversity became a theme. This, of course, wasn't the end of it. With positivity comes negativity, and as money increased, so did crime. With a war raging outside the hold, refugees hoarded outside the city. With the work market endlessly demanding workers, many businesses lost, and many kept struggling. It was a merciless place, yet the haven all wanted. The original natives of Winterhold couldn't be distinguished anymore, but they are now living on the better side of the community, being envied for being here first. That is the way of life in the new Winterhold. The bloodiest image of capitalism was incarnating in that city, and everyone was getting addicted to it. On the other hand, Whispering Town became larger and larger, taking away the stone quarry business from Sarthal. With Jarl Career and Thane Alina instructing the southern road to be fortified, the new quarry was set up near the mine, and the Dare Dragon Company hired a lot of Dunmare to start digging. Alina was even smart enough to allow the construction of a temple for Azura under the shade of Azura's gigantic statue to gather the support of the Dark Elves, even though it was against Alina's own faith. Away from the east of the hold, the heart of Winterhold was Sarthal, or Neo-Sarthal, as officially called. Sarthal had a new temple for the Nordic divines, and many clans moved there, including the Moonblades, after the destruction of their home, after the Battle of Winterhold. The Firemans also constructed a massive manor which were Jonrad and Hilda Firemane. Aside from the housing, the Nordic population of Sarthal increased massively in celebration for the revival of the ancestral home of mankind itself. All was good and fine, but what impacted the city the most was the Museum of Sarthal, the grand building that was under the direct supervision of the House of Dare managed by their retainer Silas Vesuvius. This museum became a hot spot for the scholars and mages around Skyrim, High Rock, and Morrowind. The three main settlements of Winterhold had a fourth town constructed half a year ago by Clan Moonblade, Sarikhead Town, also known as Sarik. This town was built to the west near Dawnstar as an expansion for the overflowing dock of Winterhold and to harass Dawnstar economically. Sarik was a natural fortress from the sea and a very secure location on land. It already had a lighthouse constructed ages ago and run by a Redguard family that Alina managed to save from a Falmer attack. Sarik was not just a dock and a sea fortress, but had a very significant historical value, as this is the place where Iskramor and the 500 companions landed from Atmara, a sacred spot to the men. John promised to exploit Winterhold not only by its resources, but by its overall value. Alina followed those plans as the current head of the company and added her passion as a Nord to it. Following her example, many clans put their heart and soul into the land, making something John couldn't even imagine. His dreams on the painting were beautiful, but in reality, he wasn't the only painter with endless love for Skyrim and Winterhold. On the end, not only the humans were the ones who participated in Sarik, but their neighbors were the giants who herded their mammoths in the artificial groves nearby. These giants were the ones that were chased from the Pale by Jarl Skald of Dawnstar and were forced to live in the ice wastes of Winterhold until John and Alina grew the artificial groves for them. The artificial groves is an ambitious project that John didn't have the chance to finish, but with the help of Alina and the Cult of Kine, it was intended to grow a forest north to Sarthal. Alina and her cult started to put the pine saplings in the snow wasteland, but it was too hard to grow anything, so she asked the Guardians of the Grove, a branch of the Cult of Kine residing in Kine's Grove, to transfer Spriggans to Winterhold. The process was dangerous and almost impossible, but no one gave up on the dream of building the first artificial forest. With the ambitious project greatly helping the giants who reside between Sarthal and Sarik, it was separated into multiple groves to further manage them without hindering the trade routes. With a strong alliance with the giants, Winterhold was no longer a place any could challenge. It hasn't just grown, but overgrown and attracted all the clans around it, swearing loyalty to the House of Dare as its bannermen and shield thanes. From that point, many coveted Winterhold. Organized crime and espionage were the main themes of Winterhold's trouble, thus steps in the Guardians of Winterhold. The Black Pigeons, also known as Team Zero, the ghost that doesn't exist. Julliner's private force and anti-espionage unit in the Dare Corps. Imperials, Stormcloaks, and Falmer spies were systematically discovered and executed through the hold. On the surface, Winterhold may be at peace with all, but in the shadows, there were rivers of blood curved into the pure snow. With Alina leading John's dream, Julliner was protecting it from the shadows. Understandably, the Shadow Unit was not enough to protect Winterhold, as it is very limited to intel gathering and anti-espionage, so the main striking force of Winterhold was quite the issue. After the Battle of Winter, the Empire in Solitude realized how cunning Winterhold was in the matter of regulating recruitment in the Dare Corps, which meant that not only they can break the legal limit but also muster quite the force. It led to a very strict regulation to manage and control that force, and the Dare Corps wholeheartedly complied to be limited to a 1,000 Dare trooper. The guards of Winterhold were former Dare troopers, which meant they had divided loyalty, but they were also limited by law to quite the same number. This meant that the Empire was limiting Winterhold to 2,000 units in total, but was that truly a thing? Jonrad and Hilda Firemane were their little project behind the scene, and by little project, it means the warband of Winterhold consisting purely of the members of the new clans and sneakily a lot of former Dare troopers. This force was unlisted and completely unofficial divided on all the clans, but in the secret documents under Alina's pillow, that's 10,000 units ready to huff and buff wherever she points. This is Winterhold. Winterhold City, the capital of commerce and magic. The Whispering Town, the Mine of Fortune. Sarthal, the cultural home and impenetrable bastion. Sarek, the thriving port. With many villages, giant settlements, training camps, work spots, and unearthed treasures spurting all over. The hold was in its best image for the arrival of its boss, the big boss. "We are ready," Alina spoke as she looked past the door of a new residence at the edge of Winterhold City. This was the new house which will be claimed by the Dragonborn in the future as his base of operation in the city. Inside the house, everyone gathered with John in the center. He was immersing himself in the sensation of homecoming while the others were covering themselves with heavier clothes. It is summer, all right, but Winterhold is called with that name for a good reason. "A lot has changed. I truly missed a lot." John finally spoke as he opened his eyes. "No," Alina replied and held his hands. "Everything you love was never misplaced. Your people, your family, your clan. It just rose up to your level, my dragon." John smiled and got closer to his wife. "You outdid me." "No, only one person would dare to start all this, and he started it all right. You know what? The past 2 years almost doubled our population, so not all of the people know you. Why don't you go and claim the spotlight on your own?" Alina's words were tempting as they filled John with pride. He looked past the door, and he could no longer resist it. His spotlight, his stage, his scene, his crown, and his rightful throne. The town that was just some broken buildings surrounded by some walls and buried under snow and corruption. He arrived at it when it was void of hope and had nothing left to lose. He built a bathhouse to make the money circulate and invested in any trade or labor available. Even with the Jarl against him, he put him down smoothly and took the lead, establishing a company. Then the pirates came, and he fought them at that cliff and in those waters. That cliff which is covered by wide stairs and those waters which are filled with trading ships. He went wider and taller, expanding to every direction. He brought a master alchemist to the town and regulated business and enhanced it. The East Empire Company tried to devour him early on, but it ended in bed somehow. Windhelm and the Empire wanted to divide the cake with him, and he sent them home empty-handed with a fleet that dominated the water with no sails going against the current and defying the tide for all it cares about. He expanded further and further, making his pocket reach as deep as the royal coffers. They called him a monster, an irregular, a beast. He took these names to the heart and never stopped. Those who hated them for no reason were gladly given some real reasons to hate him as he emptied their coffers and grew Winterhold further. And when an army came to his door, the army was buried at the gates of Sarthal. John Dare and Winterhold, there was never a better match. He is its soul, and she is his body. He loved her, and she loved him, and he missed her so much. As he opened the door to meet his dear, a hand stopped him, so he looked back. It was Wolford giving him that thing. "Ah, right." John Dare had a particular robe, the red sleeveless one with red plates on it. He always wore it open. Last time he wore it was at the Battle of Winterhold, and it was torn badly. He had to dress for the occasion. "Your beard is a bit overgrown, and please let your hair loose," Joel said. "Can I go now?" He was being held back for trivial things, but the others were as excited as he is, so it must be perfect at least. "You are perfect. Hurry before they remember anything else." Ela pushed him past the door, and he was finally outside the manor. Truth be told, he was barely ready. The manor was directly on the main street, so no one stopped for him. He was noticeable for his height and clothing, but seeing the firemen's in Winterhold was something very common. Life didn't stop for him. People didn't applaud, and girls didn't throw flowers in his ways. That was nothing to him. He didn't need applauding or recognition. He only needed to see the people, the buildings, the life. He looked at every person working around, carrying wood or hammering nails with great pride. He was moved by their sight, as they were the extension of his will and the echo of his work. A step further would bring him to more life and advancement. More and more, the things people built, the steps they took after him, he could see himself in them. There is nothing he wouldn't do for those people. He walked in the street as if he was touching the air that flowed around him. He knew this place by heart, even though most of the building went up by a level or two. Some eyes fell into him. He smiled even if he never saw them before. They felt him as much as he felt them. That bond was strange and powerful. They never understood it, but they knew he was someone they trust. Someone who walks on a great path for all of them for selfishness and selflessness. John's presence was strong in this place. He was too noticeable and too attractive. He was felt by those who feel bonded to this land like him, those who see Winterhold as home. He was also felt by those who lurk in the shadows as the shadows were strangling them. He is not just a man. Inside Winterhold, John is the man. The law. The one who ascended to protect the land, thus the land it ascended for him in return. This was as anything else a magic. It was not John's magic or the magic of any mage. It was the magic of the land. John loved Winterhold, and she loved him back. That is the magic. Talos used the same magic to convey his love for his legion. Talos told them that he will reshape the land which is his for them. John was the same. He was drawing the hearts and the eyes after him. He is no divine, but he was once a demi. The love that makes the divine powers him now. He is there bathed with it, and the more people see him, the stronger it gets. There is no longer a need to point and say this is John Dare. It was already known. He was followed by men, women, and children. He was followed by his wife and his friends. They all felt the land with him. He walked the new streets, the old streets, Shaller's Plaza, the market square, the Temple of Kine. Every place recognized him as much as he recognized them. Hundreds followed him. More watched him from the windows. Elishka recognized him right away and almost panicked. She seems to have put on a lot of weight those past couple of years. Angium saw John and dropped whatever in his hands. Trudvar was on the verge of tears. The vendors and the masons who worked with him before anyone else are now the wealthy, the influential, who came running to walk right behind him announcing that they are the first lackeys. Everything about this cold piece of land on the northernmost edge of the continent was just warm. Soon, John was in front of his house. He wanted to go in as he felt many presences there, but something stopped him. Not far from the house, there was a small platform made of earth with a sword stuck on it. Bloodskull? John felt the powerful connection with that sword awakening after a long slumber. What is this sword doing here? The last time John had that sword was when he infused the last of his divine power inside of it and sent it above the Tower of Music to protect the land in his stead. Not long after you left, some Nord brat from a big clan came and annoyed Alina. Seemed like he said something about you to her, causing her anger to boil, but before my hand or Alina's eyes got to him, a bolt of red lightning came down and split the boy in half. What we saw after was this sword stuck in the ground. Wolfer said. We tried to remove it from the ground, but it was impossible to lift. Wolfer had to spend a whole week lifting the ground under it to make an earthen platform and not harm the passersby. Alina continued. People came from all around the place trying to pull it out, but no one ever could. The sword would then fly from its place whenever there is some big fuss. Solve the trouble by creating big holes in the ground and swoosh return back. Jeliner demonstrated. That's classic. John laughed as he remembered the will he left inside the sword. It must have caused a lot of trouble, but now it was time for it to rest. You exhausted too much power, didn't you? John held the handle and pulled it out. Time to rest, old friend. With the sword being effortlessly pulled out, the earthen platform it slept and crumpled, but that wasn't the only aftermath. A strong cheer came from everyone who followed him. Many tried to pull the sword to the point where a few legends were formed about the sword, but now, as it is finally out, only one truth remains. Winterhold progress will never end. John Hill. Mother, here was it. The hug I waited for. I may have grown strong, but I'm still overpowered by Hilda whenever she finds me. How blessed I am. Cousin. John Hill. Boy. It was Hilda who came out first from the house. It seemed that Alina called for the whole family to gather here today. Following Hilda were my cousins and my uncles. Even my grandmother is here. People, I'm back. As soon as Hilda let me go, I was held by Hafthor and Vladimir, who pulled me in. Uncle Tyr was there as well. This is impossible. No one told us you're coming. Man, it is really you. Drag him in quickly. Someone send those people away. The situation was too chaotic and hectic. All the relatives were here, and none of them expected me. It is good to be back. How are you all? I asked. Good. Great. We're fine. I was surrounded by my people in my house. Most of us are red-haired and blue-eyed to the point where it caused the newcomers to get scared. I can see Mirren hiding behind Isha from the too much Nordness in one place. Bring him some meat. He looks thin. Grandma, wait. Eat. There is no refusing it when Grandma Jenna stuffs the food in your mouth. Just let me chew. It was a messy yet warm situation. Everyone was here, and everything was interactive. Even the kids were causing an absolute mess, but it was fun to watch. Hey, leave John alone, you stupid bunch. John, come and see. Hilda, who disappeared for a minute after I came in, was dragging me away from the gathering. Where? Here. Hey, John Hild. The one who greeted me was Jorna. Cousin, so nice to see you. Wait, don't tell me. I saw a child in her arms, and I was almost freaking out. Beowulf. Wolfer introduced me. You son of a gun. Come here. I held the boy carefully from Jorna, and he seemed unwilling to be taken by unfriendly hands. This is your uncle, Wolfer said. What's up? Wolfer and Jorna had Beowulf not long after I left. The kid is 2 years old now, and he looks like Wolfer almost to a scary point. Congratulations, brother. I handed the boy back to his parents. Thank you. We'll see what kind of a demon spawn you will bring to this world. Wolfer joked carefreely, and the other laughed, but for some reason, Alina and I were facing each other at the moment, and it didn't feel like a laughing matter to us. I didn't want to be a mood killer, so I smiled and nodded. Hey, you still have to meet those two. Hilda pulled me over further in the house, and there were the two she wanted me to meet. Oh my God, you two are so cute I could eat you. Come here. I ran towards Thor and Idun as soon as I saw them. My little brother and sister, the cutest in the world. Ha, aha. Once they saw me, they reacted right away. I can't believe how this life is mine, so blessed with two little siblings like these. I feel like getting purified and will almost cry right now. Thor and Idun are my little siblings born during my second labor. Say no more about other people's babies. Those two are cute all the way to Aetherius. Thor has short hair and long bangs. He seemed like the kind that likes to suck his fingers, but he had the airs of a troublesome child. Idun, on the other hand, had buffy cheeks, and her hair was gathered above her head as she sat on her own and looked at me with her wide eyes. Look at that little cutie. You're my little sister? How can our rotten family have such a pure being? I said as I teased her cheeks, but Thor started hitting my hand with his toy. It was fun to see my little siblings. I bought them a lot of gifts from Somerset and elsewhere, but I never know what is suitable for someone their age. Still, in this harmonious air, the most undesirable voice was heard behind. Hands off my daughter. Without any warning, I felt a large palm striking my hull back as if the wrath of Fire Titan was trying to go through me. I almost crumbled from the sudden pain, but I endured while standing up. Jonrad, what are you doing? You mad? Hilda shouted at Jonrad. Oomph. No one touches my daughter without going through the process of elimination to eliminate all the darkness of the world of their dirty hands. Only then they can come in contact with my daughter. Even Thor knows that. I could hear that idiot of a father talk about something as I stood up. For goodness sake, Hilda was holding her forehead, troubled from that idiot. Fine, I'll handle him. Ha! Out of nowhere, I buried my fist in that man's abdomen, making him bend forward. Coward, he said, agonized from the punch in his guise. Ugly me. What's up? Abhorrent child. Jonrad rose up to face me, only to look at each other face to face. What on Nern? Oblivion. Us two had a look at each other's faces, and to our utter surprise, we had the same hair and beard styles. You bastard. Son of a... This was a big taboo in our book. The two of us would never share the same style one way or the other, but with the same light beard and long hair. This is bound to turn ugly. I'll rip that face of yours off. I'll tear apart your ugly mug. We had each other by the face and were digging our nails into the other's skin, but all of a sudden, our heads were struck down as soon as we started. Stop it, both of you. You're making Aiden cry. We turn around to see Aiden's eyes getting moisty. Seeing her father and brother fighting is clearly unsettling for the young girl. Damn it. No. Don't cry. Here, Nefertiti. Johnrad held his head, not knowing what to do, but I cunningly offered a dose of fluff. Still, she was going to cry. Your faces are confusing her. One of you must go and shave now. Hilda said. Shave, right? Where? Johnrad started running around confused, causing me to roll his eyes backward. All right, I said as summoned, lust right away. As soon as it fused with me, I manipulated my beard to disappear and my hair to grow shorter. Tada! With my face looking younger, Aiden started to settle down. That was awesome. How did you do it? Johnrad was mystified by the miraculous technique. I just did so as the others. Oomph. It is a technique anyone can learn. The only requirement is to be at least 1% as good-looking as me. I replied, Damn you little shit. Johnrad ground his teeth, as this is ultimately my victory. My little sister seemed happy with the trick of making my hair grow longer and shorter. Such a thing is nothing. Guess I'll show her how to make a Daedric Titan dance on a ball. It was too nice to see my family again, but as I looked around, someone was not there. Someone I really needed to see. I could feel her getting closer in my heart, and as soon as she was close enough, I went towards her as well. The door to my house was opened, and she walked in right away. No one stood in her way and cleared the way between us immediately. I finally see her again. I have a lot to tell her about. John, Nurina. She is here coming at me with a smile, but she suddenly stopped. Her smile froze. Her eyes widened. I feared this would happen. I feared she would see my chaos. And then again, what really happened in chaos? Bonus. Don, gentlemen, is a chaos recollection. Reader A, you're a monster. Reader B, you know we don't like backflips in the narration. Don, Fufufu pushes glasses like anime as they glow. Oh, but here's where you are mistaken. Boys, you're up. John, next time on Dragonborn Saga. Wolfer, drum roll. John, we defy logic. Mirren, TSSS. John, and define nonsense. Mirren, TSSS. John, even Socrates will be there. Mirren, TSSS. John, and go through a mind hive experience. Mirren, TSSS. John, and if that is not enough for you, we will go into the most realistic fourth wall breaking experience ever. Wolf and Mirren, jazz music. John joins with a trumpet. Don, are you not entertained? Readers A, B, C, Z. Starstruck that you're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.